Okay. We're just stalling for time while Simon was taking his last swig there. There we go.
Yeah.
Morning, Simon. For me, evening, I mean, for you.
Sorry?
Morning for me, evening for you.
Oh, yeah, evening for me, yeah.
Yes, real early in the day, really early after last night's karaoke again. Tuesday night karaoke kills me every single week.
Could be worse.
Yeah, well, good thing I do it on Friday too, because Friday it's not a school night, so I can stay up as late as I want, and I can usually close out the bar at 2:30, still singing, crazy as that might be. But yeah. So hello, everybody out there in TV land.
Do you know who's joining us in the comments? I see a Frank. Yeah, it's Puff
yes,
himself.
yes.
Someone has a plushie. Which one?
Let's discuss that when he gets here. Well, he wants to join, so you should invite him or something, or maybe I can invite him or something.
He's more than welcome to come anytime.
Yeah. He wants to.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, of course, Puff. Yeah. So there's the Flutter Flow mascot right there.
Yeah, he wants the link. Let's give him the link in the purple chat.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I'm almost awake. Caffeine's almost kicked in. We'll see how well I do. I get to be virtual Scott today, I guess. So. Elevated responsibilities. So we're typing as fast as we can behind the scenes here.
Going on your Twitter, Puff.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh. Huh.
FSG. We're talking about FSG, but I think your login to FSG has changed because of your email change.
You could have me reading the do's and don'ts while you're doing this, I guess.
That's fine. Yeah, let's switch over to that.
Okay. So please be nice, be respectful, be constructive, because even though we're on YouTube, this is not like just a random IRC channel. For those 5 of you out there who remember what IRC was, so be nice. This is not just yelling at each other with tweets. Don't post anything if it's adult, rude, or offensive. We do have ban hammers and we will use them. Do not advertise or promote anything. You do not get to promote anything unless your face is on the screen. So that's just us. Okay. Then we can promote stuff all we want. We're helping produce the show. Y'all are just riding along for the ride. Don't spam. Don't post the same thing again and again. Again, I will use the ban hammer when that happens because I get bored seeing the same thing. But more importantly, if you're posting a question and then you post the exact same question 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, you've lost 30 minutes in the queue because we take them as we see them. And if you see them again, we get rid of the first one. So don't do that. That's just silly. And again, harassment of any kind, not tolerated. Failing to do that, we will ban you here and possibly other places as well. But do have a good time. We have a fun time doing the show. That's why I'm back week after week, because it is a lot of fun sharing what we know and trying to puzzle through what some of your questions are. Some of your questions are a little bizarre sometimes. When you post a question, put Q in front of it, Q colon in front of it. That way I notice it because it stands out from the rest of the stuff that's just general chit chat. It also lets me know that it's really for us and not just questions you're asking each other, which does happen from time to time. So we need to have a way of distinguishing that. Q colon in front of it. I love it. During yesterday's live stream, people were asking, do I need to put Q in front of my question? I went, oh my God, we have had an influence on the rest of the Flutter world. So that was pretty funny. Yeah.
This is a quick, brief introductions. My name's Simon Lightfoot, a Flutter community leader, CTO at Dev Angels London, and you can follow me on Twitter at Dev Angels London, and similar handle on Blue Sky and everywhere else. Scott can't be with us today. Randall, please introduce yourself briefly.
Randall Schwartz. I am a full-time Dart and Flutter contractor, talking to various people about getting stuff done for money for Dart and Flutter, but also for the last 6 years, since the beginning of the program, I have been a Dart and Flutter Google developer expert, one of 10 in the US and about 150 in the world. And what that means is I spend all day, every day, it seems, actually just a couple hours a day, answering your questions on places like Stack Overflow and Reddit and Discords and Slacks and places like that. And I also produce events like this, and I also appear virtually at GDG meetups all over the world. So it's been a lot of fun, and I am the question magician for this show, which means that I am watching for your Q colon in front of your statement. I will flag that, and we will take them in the order presented. So be patient. Sometimes we get up to like a 45-minute long queue, but we will get to you. So just have that noticed there. I think that's it.
Yep, and Danielle might be joining us later on in the show, hopefully. And who else we have here? Let's look. And we have a John. John, welcome to the stage.
Yeah, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, not too bad.
Been a few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember how it works? Do you remember how it works?
Yeah, I think I can remember. Yeah. You want me to do an intro?
Yeah, quick brief intro, and we'll get to everyone, and then we can get on with the stream.
Yeah, great. So quick intro. So been doing Flutter for a long time. Managed the Flutter community mediums, posts, and all that fun stuff. What else can I tell you? Like Randall, I try and hang out in a few different places answering questions when my day job doesn't get in the way and lets me spend a few minutes doing that. That's about it. Yeah.
Oh, it's great to have you here. And we've also got Puff. Welcome to the stage. Like the most instant fire guest you've ever seen. Like
that's right.
In the chat, and now he's here.
It's magical, right? Like I heard you all whisper my name essentially. Hey folks, I like John was not on your intro slide, so that's good. I just thought it's like, hey, half an hour until Humpday Q&A. Why not join? Always fun to do. So yeah, Puff colloquially known as Firebase guy, but I'm not that anymore, although it sometimes feels that way. 10 years at Google, mostly on Firebase, but in the last 5 of those 10 years, also lots of Flutter from like the early betas, essentially. I constantly have to think like, what's the first thing I did with Flutter? And it's either helping Seth Ladd with a Firebase problem that he was having with very early Flutter builds, and Seth Ladd being the initial product manager for Flutter. And he's now back on Flutter. He's doing the iOS bits, but honestly, he's doing a lot. So it's either that or it was helping the Emilys do the first Flutter talk at Google I/O. So they did their live coding talk, and that was actually in the Firebase track back when we had a huge track and Flutter didn't have its own like thing yet. So that was awesome. Yeah, and been doing Flutter ever since, and now of course at Flutterflow, which since I'm on camera, I'm allowed to promote. I heard.
Exactly.
Just kidding.
Absolutely.
No, as much as you want. We also got Raf here. Raf, welcome to the show. Thank you.
Hi guys. I see a lot of nice people today, so it's gonna be fun. So I'm Rafael. I'm doing
Who are you normally seeing? Who are you normally looking at? You say you have nice people today. I want to know.
You're right, Scott. So you know.
Oh, poor Scott. Sorry, he gets now you're himself.
Nah, we laugh, Scott. Come on. Yeah. So I'm Rafael. I'm doing some Flutter community stuff. I answer some questions here and there, and I'm here to listen Randall singing.
Please no.
Not without copyright strikes. I can't do it unless we.
Yeah, it'd be too good. We get copyright strike. Can't do that.
That's right. That's right. Can't even
on backstage.
Yes, maybe. Yes, after the show's over.
Okay. Andrew, you know what you can do? You can join us if you like.
Yeah.
Just ask. So
he knows. I think he knows where to find the link.
Yeah.
We've
got a couple of questions in the queue. We've got a couple of questions in the queue, but we're looking for more questions right now. So we're just going to chat amongst ourselves until we get a few more questions before we get started. So what are we chatting about? Hey, let's chat about yesterday.
Yeah, we should talk about yesterday's show. Yeah. Some good stuff.
We ran a Flutter London meetup around it and did a watch party with some pizza and drinks and stuff. And we also did a little sort of local experts just chatting, answering questions and chatting about things afterwards, which was quite fun as well. It's kind of a live Humpday Q&A in the same way. So yeah.
Cool.
I mean, what I'm trying to think. The thing is that all these kind of things that have been announced are kind of things that we've kind of, from a technical perspective, known about for a while. Like the data class has always been constantly, talked about and worked on, and the various kind of technical fixes. Is there a particular thing that stood out to anyone here around what they liked around the
28%?
Yeah, that was a big one. Yeah. I think people.
28%. Yeah.
That's the first stat I've heard on the iOS side, because we've had the Android side for a long time because we have direct stats for that. So I don't know how they got the iOS stat.
To be clear, I did notice when it is 28% of new
apps.
Sorry,
yeah.
Apart from your mute. It was 28% of new apps. I think it was not necessarily
Correct. of all apps. Yeah, it was of new apps being submitted. Yeah.
But still, that's still a substantial amount, like 1 in 4, right? Essentially, right? So,
yeah, I thought that, go ahead.
Let me answer this for a second. We are on Twitch. We're streaming to Twitch, but I only watch the YouTube side. So, and I only answer on the YouTube side. So, if you're on Twitch, great. You're watching live. We do see your conversation, but we're probably not going to incorporate it much in the show.
So we'll get your questions come through and we'll put them in and everything else, right? But it's obviously hard for people to talk back to you if you're on a different platform, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
Cool.
But predominantly we do YouTube. Yeah. Sorry, go on, John.
No, I was just gonna say, I think the other thing that I think a lot of people were interested in, some of the stuff that there is, roadmap stuff that's being played with, but not necessarily, coming anytime soon. I think the widget preview was one that a lot of people seemed interested in. I didn't get a chance to watch the event live. I had, unfortunately, business stuff going on, but I watched it this morning and read through the comments as they were coming through, and it seemed like that was one that got a lot of lot of interest.
I missed the end of the stream because at the live event, but someone said about merging threads. Was there something around changing the way threading was working? Did that come up? Was that something else?
No, I think
yeah,
when they were talking about, I think that was when they were talking about the changes for FFI and stuff, that they were talking about how that would all run on the same thread.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I kind of think someone might have misconstrued it then, because it was more about merging. I was like, this doesn't really work that way. We're always going to have separate rendering threads. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I think they mean that. Yeah. So part of this was around, I think, there's always been complexities around scheduling on coming in and outside the Dart environment, especially with native code. That's a complex topic in itself. But yeah, I think simplifying that is definitely required. The expectation is that you expect to be called back in terms of Dart land. You expect to be called back on the same isolate, at least, that your code is obviously running in. But it's hard to say. So certain like native code requires your code to be running like on the main thread of the application, which is problematic because that main thread is now being utilized, and the threads that are actually running the FFI code are going to be like background task threads. They're not actually like the main thread. So you have to do like this dance of having a wrapper in C code that will call those third-party APIs by working some scheduling magic, and it becomes quite complicated. I think, if they can make that, any simplification on that would be of great benefit. I did notice, like the idea of this in production now is all about like polishing and like refining, and not like direct sort of feature improvement, but improving what we have right now.
Yeah,
and yeah, I think that can go a long way, definitely.
Yeah, I think we should.
This was an important point too.
No more. Yeah.
That was great.
Moving out to Swift Package Manager. Yay.
Yeah.
I always, if there's ever any error message that comes up about either CocoaPods or Gradle, I just, that's why my hair is slowly getting thinner on the top. It's really like, I see.
I used to have a full head of hair, and then I installed CocoaPods.
I mean, what
exactly?
So the decorators, that's like very much a Swift kind of. Is it Swift UI that has decorators like that? We do like you have like the widget do dot padding and like CSS sort of style.
Well, I think doesn't does Kotlin do that now? Or
Kotlin, right? Yeah, Kotlin.
Yeah.
You're right. Kotlin
different,
and I think Swift UI both do that.
And Remy's had a package for at least 2 or 3 years that does essentially functional widgets, which is what he called it. And so there's already been packages to do this. So it's like I don't know.
It's not new. It's interesting. I'm not sure. I mean, it really makes no difference because if anyone knows how it works, it's got a function that just returns the new widget with the child parameter is the parameter that's been passed in, and that's it. It's just syntax sugar on what you're doing. It's still exactly the same structure. So I don't really care which way you do it, right? Like it's the end result is the same.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what they talked about. Even some of the samples, right, was showing, main axis alignment. So instead of having to type main axis alignment dot space evenly, you can just do dot space evenly, and things like that. So I think it was.
I don't think that should. I don't know what. One of the big things I've always wanted in Dart has been the short enums that they showed on the stream, right? The just in the dot syntax, you have like dot center, dot left align or whatever, right? That I think would be super powerful because it's so verbose right now. If you have you want to use enums, but as soon as you use a couple of enums with good names in like one line, it's just you get 5 lines of wrapping basically.
I end up with a lot of type defs in my code. Just type def x equals the long.
And it's all useless, right? Because in effect, it's the type is known, right? Like you could only use that enum type.
Yeah, it's expecting one anyway. It's like it should definitely be determinable from context, and that's the argument in the specification. The proposal is that it should be inferable.
You can't extend enum, can you? Like an existing enum, you can't even though an enum, because it's even though an enum is what it is, it does build an enum object at the end of it, but that's actually during compile time, right? So at runtime, they're all final classes, I think, so it should be fine.
Yeah, you can add extensions to add methods for instances, but you can't make more
extend them,
entries.
right? Yeah, they're not
No,
like classes.
they're all sealed. They're all automatically
Yeah,
sealed,
yeah.
essentially.
And
Yeah.
because that means it should be perfectly feasible to do the dot syntax,
Right.
In terms of understanding the type, right?
That's exactly the argument that the proposal makes. Is like we already know this. We know what has to go here.
Yeah.
There's a few cases they gave where they wouldn't know, or that maintenance of code might break something. But so yeah, go check out the spec, because it actually does talk about this sort of nature of the thing, and why, how much it'll break when it goes in, and how much work it's going to take. I think it's sort of like in the second or third column of the roadmap thing right now, not all the way to the right. It's not in the implement phase yet.
I think there's
getting there.
There was also, what was the native interop stuff they were talking about? So the idea being that you can just essentially have a native interop for Android and be able to call all the Android classes, the Java classes and functions and everything else from Dart. I think they showed like some example code using like one of the managers, like location manager or something.
Yeah, so that was this Gemini Gen, yeah.
Yeah. Was that just Gemini Gen results?
Yeah.
I think that it'd be really nice if there was like a official first-party package for Android for each platform, which exposed the API into Dart functions and Dartland, right? Rather than having to, because I feel like we only include what we need, right? So we have the ability to not include all the Dart code.
I think the proposal looks something like that, where we wouldn't have to invoke Gemini Gen or FFI Gen that was already included with the published package,
right?
And so it would just work.
That's exactly what I think we've been looking for that for a while. I think the problem with doing that kind of thing, I think there's a hidden cost, right? In terms of when you call one of these native functions, you're going through between two different languages, two different environments, and there's going to be an overhead attached to doing that. So each function call is going to have an overhead attached. It's never going to be as fast as it would be to actually have maybe some plugin code doing tight loops, for example. You're going to want that still being in some sort of native land, right? But I know for most plugins, that's not really a concern, right? Like for most plugins and things you're doing, you're not trying to do like AI computation with, that you wouldn't do that, right? That's the kind of stuff that would be detrimental. But I think like most plugins being able to like just communicate with the native functions of the platform and be able to wrap them or call them, that's literally every plugin, right? I think it would be an interesting change in the way that we build plugins for sure.
And we have a meta question we should probably answer first. So it's my first Humpday. Hey, welcome to the show. And what I'm asking is, do we ask questions in Humpday? I think you're talking about on Twitter or chit chat. Again, I'm only responding to you if you're asking in the YouTube chat. If you're asking the YouTube chat, I can chat back.
Yeah, if you put a Q code in front of your question inside the Twitch chat, we'll get it here and we can bring it up on stream, like you just did asking this question, and we can answer. So just pop your question in the chat, and we'll get there.
Yeah,
I always have that phrase: "Don't ask to ask, just ask."
Yes, very important.
Right. Make sure you get your questions in, and then we'll get to them in the show.
Okay. Let's do a few more questions here.
The other thing that dropped was workspaces, right? That dropped as part of the release, which I think was really important. Most people don't know about this. I think it's worth talking about this. Let me just briefly bring this up on stream. Here we go. Did you guys hear about this? Pub workspace monorepo support?
Yep.
So basically the idea being that there's very often you have multiple packages and you want to break them down so you have control over imports and various other reasons why you have a monorepo. Anyway, and now at the top level, if you add a pubspec YAML, you add a workspace tag and then the directory for all your packages. And this allows the analysis server to dedupe its syntax trees.
this is quite important because at the moment, if you have, let's say helper client package and server package here all refer to the collection package. The way the current system works right now, if you don't use new workspace feature, is that the syntax tree of collection package would be separately included in memory for each one of these packages, which is when you have a dependency tree like we get with pub packages, which is one depends on another, that depends on another, depends on another. Before you know it, there's a lot of memory used up in by the language server to actually have that syntax tree in memory, and this will cut down on a lot. So as soon as you start getting so it doesn't replace Melos completely. Like Melos does scripting, it does a bunch of other things on top. However, what I would suggest you use this in conjunction with Melos. Maybe we'll see if this goes further that they'll add script and support and other things to this. Maybe, right? It's more things to maintain, mind you, but you never know. I think this should be used in conjunction with Melos though at the moment. But yeah, no, this is each pub spec should ensure that they're running 360 at least in there and have a resolution entry of workspace. So there you go. That will link everything together in the mono repo so that it can resolve the dependencies correctly.
It'll be interesting to see what VGV does with Melos now that this is coming out.
It's not VGV, it's Invitace that make Melos.
Oh, Invitace, right? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Wrong, cool people.
So the link is in the chat if anyone wants to go take a look and deal with it. Right. Yep. Where are we now? Should we go to some questions?
I got a few more questions. Yeah, let me scroll back here since I'm virtual Scott today here. Where is comments start? That's what I'm looking for. Okay. We got one we're saving, I think, for our our live chat, or did we want to just do this now, or
it's interesting that
want to ignore it?
We could be here a long time talking about BuildContext. It's a very, very
yes
embedded part of the framework, very deep structured syntax for how Flutter works. I'm going to suggest a bit of reading material, and then maybe at the very end we can get back to talking about this. There is a file in here we go. So let's see if we can bring this up on stream here. Wow,
Mark, I'm looking at Mark's question.
He's such a troll.
So for those that don't know, the element class in Flutter is actually the implementation of BuildContext, right? So this documentation in here, and you can see here implements BuildContext. This documentation here, and if you follow it to the code itself, there you go. Here is the code here. Implements BuildContext. This is what you want to read, right? This is the magical implementation that you've probably all wanted to read when you click on BuildContext and go, how did it do this thing? Well, this is how it works. So, it's pretty, a lot of it's pretty straightforward. A lot of it's just scanning the element tree. Let me see if I can find an example. Well, here you go, look. Getting the render object. So gets the current element. If it's defunct, ignore it, break. If it's a render object element, then return the render object. Otherwise, go to the nearest render object that's attached to the child and traverse the tree until you find one, right? A lot of it's just tree traversal. But this is the implementation of all the functions that we normally call, like inside here we'll find was it ancestor,
exact ancestor of or something.
Ancestor. Oh, good to me.
Debug typical ancestor.
No, there's gonna be lots of them now, isn't there? Just
typical.
Yeah.
There's an atypical as well, right? Oh look, here, look, depends on the inherited widget of exact type.
Yeah, that one.
That. So that's the
interface. By the way, and John will appreciate this. GitHub, which is what we're looking at right now. If you press dot right there on that screen, it will bring you up in VS Code right there, which is really cool. So you can
Right,
do
that's-
real
that's-
VS Code things.
Right. So depend on inherited widget of exact type, and here's the implementation of which. It looks at inherited widgets, see if it can find one for the type. If it can't, then it depends on that inherited widget, and that will do the traversal. Otherwise, it has unsatisfied dependencies and returns null. Right. Yeah. So again, it's not magical, right? Like it's all kind of boring, but yeah. I don't know. Anything more to say about this? I don't think there is.
No, I
right
mean
now.
there's enough. There's lots of articles that people
Yeah.
post on BuildContext. If you just go search on Medium, there's you can find some good ones that talk about BuildContext and how to use it and how not to use it and how to do things the right way.
I'd also highly recommend Craig's 2 talks on consecutive Vikings about the render tree and the life cycle of state.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
very, very informative and still fairly accurate from what I'm aware. And that really just enlightened me a lot about how this all comes together. And it's definitely highly recommend that. Craig did a great job doing that presentation.
If you look at the DroidCon content, you'll find the FlutterCon videos. I can pop a link in the chat actually. So if anyone wants to watch all the FlutterCon videos, they're uploaded there. And I did a talk on inherited widget and how it all works, including the aspects, which is part of the new kind of system. Instead of using like media query.of, use media query.sizeof, for example. But yeah, I'll see if I can.
No, media query of size.
No,
Right?
Car going by.
Is it size of or of size?
size of. Dun, dun, dun.
Ah.
So there's yeah, I'll post a link in here. There's FlutterCon and FlutterCon USA this year. This is all the video content from that. If anyone wants to go peruse it, you can follow this link. This will be this year, and if you change the year to 2023, you'll get last year's FlutterCon the year as well. So it's in the chat. Lots of content in there from awesome people, all current, all awesome. Right, what's next on the list?
Will there be something like a separator within columns or rows to have equal space between the elements? Well, first off, there already was one. There was space between.
Well, no. So there was a follow-up to that. The actual question is to put like a buffer column between columns of data or rows of data.
Right,
So,
and that's the new version they just rolled out in the latest release, which has a separator width and
right.
It's a width in pixels, right? Isn't it?
Which is what I was just trying to bring up on the stream. Hang on, let's bring it up. There you go. So you get spacing as an extra parameter now.
Yep.
Yes.
On column and on row, and that just adds this number of dips between the elements in the row.
And that's in which build of stable.
Oh, and guess what? It's sunny
in the
here.
latest table.
It's sunny here. I think I'm gonna have to go off screen. No, the one tiny little 1 foot by 3 foot window is perfectly aligned with the sun on the shortest day of the year.
Randall's gonna melt.
I know. It's horrible. I'm gonna have to put my hat on pretty quick here because I'm not gonna be able to see the screen.
Right.
Let me continue here. Let's do the next one here, which is going to be a little more fun. What about native interop? We were talking some about that. How about live coding biometric Android? Woohoo! To showcase native interop. Feel like doing that there for live coding? Performance comparison with event channel. You don't want much, do you, Shreeman?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Save it in case we get back to it.
Yeah, I'll put it to one side, but it's one of those things like you're going to see. We're talking about performance here, right? And if you're going to talk about performance, then you're not going to see much in the use case like this, right? The overhead of making it like a call to the operating system going, is the user authenticated with biometrics? Yes, no. That's literally what it kind of boils down to. Like
there's going to be, don't get me wrong, there'll be performance comparison. You have to run it 10,000 times to get like probably a measurable impact on a fast device. But yeah, I mean, I'll put it on the list and we'll see what we can get to.
Sure. Cool.
And
All right.
to add to that, method channels are fast, so
That's what I'm trying to say. Like event channel, which is event channel means method channels, right? But I mean, like, is it going to be that different? Probably not.
Yeah. Okay. What are some effective resources for deepening understanding of BuildContext? We kind of covered this already. So to help avoid common navigation and state management errors. Yeah, just practice and practice.
Help. I mean, the key here when it comes to BuildContext is check to see if it's mounted before you access it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the entire way of dealing with these common problems, right? Like, also include the lints package, the Flutter lints package, right? Because you're going to get told like you're using a context across an asynchronous gap, for example, which is a very common problem, right? That's where you may have some code inside a function. You'll await some asynchronous code. Now, after that await, when you get back controlling that function, the widget may no longer be attached to the UI, right? In which case, you're not going to be able to use context look up something from Riverpod or provider or whatever, right? Like it's just not going to work, right? So you're going to have to Riverpod uses ref, that's a whole different thing. But anyway, you're not going to use context at all. So that's where you check if mounted, right? This can also be avoided by just the way that you work, right? So depending on how you build your state management UI, what you can be doing is firing off an event when a button is pressed. That updates the state. And all it's doing is updating the app state. And then the UI reflects that. And it's that simple, right? That way, it doesn't matter if the user goes away from the screen and comes back. The UI is still going to know what the app state is at that time. So there shouldn't need to be a continuing use of BuildContext after it's been mounted. You could think of check and see if a context is mounted as being a bad thing, right? That you shouldn't need to do that. If you are doing that, you're probably maybe architecting your app wrong. It depends, right? Like it's not, most things are quite simple, and like displaying a snack bar with an error after you've called something. If the user no longer on the screen, they don't see the snack bar. Well, what do you do, right? Like it's per use case, right?
So at the beginning of the show, we said, do not repeat the same question again, because we're just going to move you further down in the queue. Saeed, you're the first victim of that. So don't ask the same question twice. I will move you down and then you lose your place. Okay, here we go. How about the next actual useful question for a second? My container, container column expanded, stepper, step, column, row, flexible, fractionally sized box. It doesn't just blow up at that.
Yeah, it does. I keep getting an error.
You're down to 4 pictures now, right? So left a 2x2 zone. What? I keep getting error after flexible because unbounded size. Yeah. That's not surprising. You got column and column.
Steppers are quite an interesting use case, right? Because stepper does the whole expanding, collapsing thing, and it's. I never particularly liked it. If you can achieve what stepper does by just having some flags, like in your own widget and showing a high content, like that's what animated size does. I don't know. I'm
curious why. So looking at that list,
we could look at this. Go on.
No, I'm just curious. So I'm trying to figure out so why expanded? Because stepper does that, right? So
I just realized
it makes sense in there. But yeah, you know what? Maybe if they can share a gist or something.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing we didn't say. If you want to share a code snippet, go to gist.new. That'll take you to GitHub gist page where you can post some code. And then once you've posted the code, you get the hash from the URL. Once you make a public gist, create the hash from the URL, pop that in the chat, and then we can load that up and we can look at your code.
Yeah.
The hash is like hexadecimal characters in the URL. Anyway.
I'm already scared at the fact that when you're looking at the indent for this, it's gonna be way over mid-page.
Yeah, it's gonna be long.
It's like I try to tell people you really only ever really logically can process about 3 or 4 or maybe 5 layers of nesting. And at that point, you should refactor it, make a separate widget that then sits as a named thing inside the larger thing. So this is where you learn to extract to widget in your IDE. Be very useful with that, because that gets you out of these problems.
Something I will mention that people don't always forget. I think it's a common problem that I always tell people to do this. Pretty much, if you're building a mobile phone app, you expect column not to be center, which is the default. You want it to be stretch. So your main axis alignment on every column should probably be stretch.
Yeah.
So every time you put column in, main axis alignment stretch. This is because you're kind of doing vertical and you want that to stretch and to scroll in the vertical axis. Of course, if you're flipped in your orientation, then that would flip as well, and your their bounding would change. But for the most part, yeah, your columns are probably missing the main axis alignment are set to stretch. And your rows could also have that, and you can use intrinsic height and intrinsic width as well to secure the unbounded size. But it depends on what you're building. Maybe you can post a code snippet, we can take it further. Danielle, welcome to the stream.
Hey, I only have a few minutes, but I had a meeting before this, but I wanted to, we're so close to Christmas. I wanted to come on and say Merry Christmas to everybody, and
Merry Christmas.
happy whatever appropriate December holiday you would like to have. It's fine, not a problem with me.
Festivus, happy Festivus.
Whatever's appropriate, but yeah, but I wanted to say hi. And wow, Puff's here. I didn't realize that was happening. So hey, always happy to see you.
Nobody did. Nobody did.
That's awesome.
Secret. We kept it secret right up until about 5 minutes before the show. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. But anyway, so yeah.
So.
But yeah, that last question, that looked to me like there was some unbounded stuff in there, but I haven't unraveled it. But it feels unbounded.
Just the fractionally sized box is trying to figure out stuff, right? And then you've got an expand, and you've got other stuff
flexible,
in there that's causing
lots of
attention.
There is a page on the docs about constraints, which actually I think everyone should read.
Yeah.
Let me just dig it out.
That's
and to be clear,
read it multiple times.
When I joined, you were talking about the stretch part. To be clear, you mean that for the top level column, not every column, just the top level column you want stretched, right?
No, you can do it on every column, because most columns you don't ever want to. At what point do you want content to be all centered with unbounded width? And if they go out, they get the bars, right?
No,
you just don't. It just doesn't work that way, right?
No.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, let me briefly bring some stream just so we see what we're talking about. Yeah, so there's this web page on as part of Flutter, which is called Understanding Constraints. And this is the mantra that we've always gone by, which is constraints go down, sizes go up, parent sets position. This has been like something that we've always said. And we, in fact, the community came up with this concept and page, and one of the community members, Mark, did the write-up. Mark Glassberg did the write-up for all of this page. And it explains that it talks about like widgets as if it's a conversation, the layout process, right? Hey, parent, what are my constraints? You must be from 0 to 300 pixels wide and 0 to 885 tall. Since I want to have 5 pixels of padding, and then I have the child has 75, you can kind of like see this conversation. This is how layout works effectively, right? It explains it all, and really nice. There's examples of all these different types of layouts and how you align things and how things are aligned and what it all means. And there's tons and tons and tons of them. Okay. So if you're trying to understand constraints and how they'll work in what different sizes, tight versus loose constraints and so on, this is what will give you this information.
I was going to say there's a Philip video, but it's linked down at the bottom.
Yep.
So I'll pop this in the chat.
That's Simon. You can't expect me to read all of that. Come on, like fix my layout problem. Just do it.
I know, right? What do you mean I have to read and learn?
Yeah.
I mean, this is critical to get past just the most basic of stuff. It really is, and it's not that hard. Once you have to start wrapping your brain around a certain way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you ultimately throw your hands up and just use Boxy. So that's like the best way.
So I want to Puff. Have you built some apps from the ground up with Flutter?
Of course I have. Keep in mind, I used Flutter before most people here, right?
So what
what would you say? What were some good like learning things to go
Oh,
into when
gosh,
it comes
no.
to like, layout?
Keep in mind, I'm horrible at layout stuff, right? So I always build the world's ugliest chat app because like I don't care about the way it looks. Honestly, it's one of the things I find using Flutterflow. At least the app is less ugly. There might be all kinds of things wrong with it, but like opinions on that vary. But at least the layout is a lot better than when I do it.
I almost spit out my salad with Puff working at Flutterflow saying, "Oh, I'm horrible at layout. I don't care."
I am really bad at layout stuff. And I sort of understand how things work, but the number of times I get the yellow and black hash thing right, like all the time, right? I do this wrong, and then I look it up, right? Or I now ask Copilot to fix it for me. Right? and it's okay at that, not great. It's better at raw code.
To what extent,
I
if we're
think the
using
thing I
Flutterflow,
find.
we do more layout?
Sorry, there were two questions.
I'm sorry, we
going.
both went, Randall. You go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the thing that I'm most confused about layout is whether when some particular widget is given a range of constraints, like both a min and a max size, whether it biases towards minimum or biases towards maximum. You can't tell that without looking at the source code for the widget. It's not documented anywhere.
Yes.
And so, and because it could be anything, because remember, the parent is giving constraints that might be ranges. 0
to be honest,
and
the way that there's a very few widgets that actually do try and fill, right? Like it's only ones that to do with like layout, right? It's to do with alignment and things like that. It's like center, align, stack, right? They all try and like fill, but for the most part, most widgets will there's what was the like navigators is actually a really horrible widget when it comes to that, because it will force you can't wrap with the navigator because you use an overlay which has other problems and constraints. I mean, when you're building layouts, right, you have that there's an interesting time when you're building layouts, you start getting this sort of complex constraint problem where you want it to be large, to expand to a certain point, but not to do that unless it's this big or that big. And before you know it, you've kind of got these really complex constraints you're trying to build. And like, how do I build that out of a bunch of widgets? At that point, I'd say your problem is you're trying to build it out of a bunch of widgets, right? At that point, you know exactly what you want it to, how you want it to behave, so you can program it to behave like that with the custom single child. Oh god, I've got it myself now. Single
child layout. Custom layout. Custom child layout. So custom single child.
Yes, custom single child layout. I'll get up. Custom single child layout is also where most people fall down. They don't use this when they should. When you want like a single child to behave a certain size and dimension based on whatever factors and information you want. This is it. This is exactly what you want. Custom single child layout. And then there's also custom multi-child layout, which allows you to do that with many children. So I was replacing your what you might have for a list or column, let's say. Things will run.
Or if you want a higher level abstraction of that, Boxy does that exactly for you. It's just basically building out these things.
So like trying to do this, for example, try and do this layout with normal widgets, right? You can do. Some might come on and go, I'm going to do 4 columns, right? And then I'm going to have like a line with a different fractional amount. And then I'm going to like you're doing all this when actually all you actually wanted to do is pass those widgets over and then have a little function that lays it out. I mean, it's not complicated, right? You end up you're overcomplicating your life, basically. Anyway, go for it, Puff.
There's no raised hand here. I asked it in our internal chat, but nobody responded, so I'm just going to put it I know, totally fine, but I want to briefly, did anyone look at the direct native access stuff in detail? I missed the presentation, so I've been, if people wonder why I was quiet, I was also trying to catch up on the stream from yesterday a bit and seeing the things that you all think were the most important. And I caught, let me see if I can present it here.
You can.
Well, there we are. So sorry for the fuzzy thing. I took a quick screenshot. of something that Michael was presenting about the direct access. And has anyone like caught more than what I show here? Because this is what I could quickly see in the stream from yesterday.
No, I mean, but this is what you can get. So this, what you see here, is kind of stuff that you get if you call JNI Gen, right? And you give it the Java interface for, like, say, the biometric manager. Then you're going to get like all this kind of code.
That's the new API, right, or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, because this looks interesting, but the first thing I immediately wonder is, like, where do these imports come from, right? Are these pre-generated? Are they like gRPC stuff that we need to generate during the build? I doubt these are macros.
My point was, I don't know either.
No.
I haven't actually. Does that package actually exist, or is that just like?
But yeah, I doubt this is something that's shimmed on the fly, right? So this must be something that you pre-generate. They specifically said Android X, by the way, I noticed. So I was wondering if it's a set of packages that the Flutter team will create, but more likely it's something that we will have to run, right?
I'm not saying anything specifically around it.
Because it is fascinating for me, right? The biggest thing about doing these native interops, these federated plugins, is that you have to suddenly write like Swift code, right? I don't mind thinking about iOS. I prefer to not have to switch to like writing Swift code in Xcode to get my Dart code working, right? And if we can do all of that in just pure Dart code, that is wonderful. I do get that there's a performance difference, but honestly, keep in mind with my background, right? Any network call I do negates any of the interop overhead that you typically get, right? Unless we start doing animation loops like this, I doubt it is high.
Maybe if Red or I'm drawing a blank. I don't know why, but are still out there in the chat, and they have a link that they could send us that would give us more info.
Oh, Andrew, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I would love to see more about this one specifically, because it's a thing that Flutter has iterated on a few times. I know that at Flutter Forward, Leah did like a talk about this, about the JNI Gen. That was brand new then. And I always wondered about this. And I also know that I can say Flutterfire now, but in the Flutterfire libraries, they switched over to using Pigeon, and I never fully understood how that compares to this, essentially. So anyone knows that?
So Pigeon just generates the method channels. It just generates the code around method channels. Essentially takes an RPC interface and then builds out all the method channels required, and then you have you have a native implementation of an interface like Java or Kotlin or whatever, and then you write your functions for that. So basically, it just saves the manual writing of all the method channels.
Here we get that too, right? If you look at that import, for example, isn't that essentially already getting us?
The difference here is that doesn't use method channels. This doesn't.
We don't know, right? Like the Android X.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It doesn't. Okay.
It doesn't. I'm guaranteed. So this is the whole thing around the changes. Sorry, I was chatting to Deke and some of the other guys from the team at FlutterCon around this stuff. This was around the ecosystem summit, right? But yeah, no, this is all around like improving FFI and the generation around FFI related code.
Okay. I'm really curious to see essentially what packages then are in there. And
basically that was presented on the last demo that they did, and they talked a lot about this. So you will basically specify the classes that you want to generate, and then it will generate those bindings.
Okay, got it. So that's pretty much
like the goal is to like generate them on the fly. So you can just call native APIs from Dart.
When you say on the fly, I hope we mean compile time, not runtime.
Yes. I mean more
Thank
like
goodness,
yeah.
When the compiler is flying.
But that feels like that feels like how you would call gRPC APIs, right? And I would honestly love that. I am curious about all the things that were raised here about like performance, but I am not worried about them. I'm curious. Okay.
Yeah, they were also talking like hooking like multiple debuggers, so like the native debugger and Dart debugger, so we can debug both like Kotlin and Swift and Dart from the same session. But let me look for the link to that.
I knew I was going to find it. I've just been hunting around for a link.
No, that is cool. Yeah, I sort of like these things. I like how Flutter and Dart keep iterating on how to make interop easier, because it is a real limitation, right? Like we need to bind to the native underlying APIs.
So for those that are interested in the native side of things, this is it. Dartlang native is the official repo that holds the packages for all the native components. And there's your Swift gen, Swift to Objective-C, Objective-C, native toolchain C. These are all the packages relating to JNI Gen FFI. So
very cool.
Okay.
Randall, were there any other questions that were?
I don't know, but let's first handle this question because I think we can handle this one quickly. Yes, apparently you can ask a question.
No. Mark's the only one who can't ask questions. No, he's been banned.
Okay, right.
No,
Yeah,
I have a question for Mark. Why isn't he on here? Mark, why isn't he on here?
He's had to be busy with work apparently. So yeah.
We tried to get Red. We tried to get Craig.
Wait! Before we do that, Puff was asking, "What if you have a question that's for you?"
No. In general, no. But,
I do have a question that's related to you. If you want to take it,
go for it.
Why does somebody say Firebase isn't great for enterprises? Trash. Is Firebase only great for MVPs and not suitable for production apps? I think you would have something to challenge that with.
I think this was mostly written to trigger me into answering something, but like. Honestly, keep in mind, I'm not at Firebase anymore, but I still do lots of Firebase consulting. One of the things, by the way, Firebase isn't great for enterprises is a wonderful thing, right? Just so you know, Flutterflow runs on Firebase, right? Runs on Firestore. So if we can build a 4.5 million user business on it, I think it will run fine for your app also. By the way, we have lots bigger ones also. That doesn't mean you don't hit limitations. It doesn't mean you don't need to sometimes re-architect things. One of the biggest things that honestly, it's been so much fun, right? In the Flutterflow users, we see a clear split between the Superbase lovers and the Firebase lovers. Keep in mind, I might be Firebase guy. I don't hate on other databases. In fact, I've always rooted for Superbase to succeed. I'm very happy that they're doing well. It often is either a hate for Google, which is again something people have, or it's SQL sucks. You always need to do NoSQL, or NoSQL is horrible because you can't do proper relations. If you're too stupid for that, you shouldn't be doing databases, right? That's not how it works, right? It's like there's a reason these types of databases exist. And that's what's the surprising thing for me, right? It's like. Honestly, for the longest time, we fought hard with Firebase, right? Against the Firebase is only for prototypes, right? Thing, because that's simply not true. Now, right? So once it's got to Firebase gets too expensive when your app is successful, I was like, okay, that's a part where honestly, that could be, right? Whole different thing. Somebody honestly recently, there was a great discussion in one of the subreddits for Flutterflow. And somebody made a very clear thing, right? You have in mind a budget that you want to spend on your backend services, right? If you use Superbase, right? Like you have a server, you set a budget, and this applies to many of these, by the way. I just picked Superbase because it's the most common comparison these days, right? Then if you reach that limit, it turns off. And whether that limit is money or CPU power, doesn't matter, right? It turns off. Guess what? Firebase, when you reach that limit, right? Google Cloud Platform actually just keeps going, right? It's not really a limit. It's an alert. That's the biggest difference, right, between these two models. And we don't have to agree on the model, right? It's like I wish I could set a hard limit on Firebase. Of course, don't you think I fought for that for years? And from what it is today, you can see that I didn't win that battle. So it was probably not easy, right? For those who've been in the room with me, I can be pretty convincing in what I want, why I want something to work a certain way.
And you brought up Supabase. I feel comfortable asking this question.
Of course.
So, does Firebase Connect take off some of the pressure from forcing Supabase if you want relational?
Good question. Yeah. No, it is a really great one. So Firebase Data Connect is a Firebase layer on top of Google Cloud SQL where you can run Postgres, right? So it's hosted Postgres. Indeed, right, that's very clearly a play at the same market that Supabase targets, right? Like very clear. But it's still a Google Cloud product, right? So it still has both the same advantages that you have from other Google Cloud products, and for many people, the same disadvantages, right? Again, no billing cap. The biggest thing there, by the way, is that it doesn't have a credit cardless free tier. So there is a free tier, but it's essentially on the database, it's a trial, where on Supabase, right, you get a single free project, if I understand correctly. Honestly, I've been using other bases in my experiments. I've been doing lots of fun stuff with PocketBase, for example, which is like a magical tiny backend as a service. So
other than the on-prem control that you get with Supabase, is there really much else to differentiate the Firebase and the Supabase products if you're just using the core services?
They are very.
I mean, they're different bases, right?
Yeah, but on the other hand, right, I just noticed that I was actually talking to one of my enterprise sales yesterday, and we were chatting about precisely this. From where I'm standing now, everyone just needs a backend as a service type thing to connect their mobile apps to. And it doesn't really matter which one they pick. It matters, of course, in the implementation details, but strategically, it's all the same, right? So if they're a Google shop, they're going to pick Firebase, right? If they're AWS, they're going to begrudgingly pick Amplify, right? And if they're not, they're probably going to pick Supabase. Sorry, Adam Sullivan, if you're tuned in, right? But it's like, in the end, all these things serve the same purpose, right? So it's whatever you are comfortable with that you use. That's, for example, right, it's like, if you are comfortable with relational databases, know their limitations, and know how you can fit your use cases within those limitations, use a relational database, use Supabase, nothing wrong with that, right? If you love Google products, right, and you want a free tier, like, and you're not uninterested in NoSQL, right? Consider looking at Firestore, right? It's a great database for that. Don't be dogmatic about it, right? Honestly, I had a hard time like 12, 13 years ago switching from SQL to NoSQL. Really took me a while. I'm now having an equally hard time switching back. Like, SQL hasn't gotten worse in the meantime, right? It's gotten more complex, by the way, that I do notice. But
okay, I'm done derailing the show with Puff. You guys can go back to talking.
Yeah, we are probably also on time.
Thank you, Puff. That was great insights.
Sure thing.
Okay, what do we got next here? We've got.
Actually, I can come on for a few minutes. It's my normal. I had a meeting, so but it's my normal time. I got to be back to start the rest of my day. But thanks again for another great year, and Merry Christmas to everybody. And actually, this is for Randall's sake. I'm wearing a Dragon Con
Happy Festivus. Oh, Dragon Con, yeah. Haven't been there in years, but yeah, I went there for many decades in a row. Before I started going. Yes.
Thanks everybody,
Thank you.
And I will see you in the new year.
See you next
year.
Yeah.
Happy Festivus. Happy Festivus. All right, moving on. Next question. I've tried to draw labels and dividers on each division in a slider, but some of the dividers and labels are not aligned with the division. Maybe some kind of live code about this. Ooh. You want to
that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
That does. That sounds like fun. All right. Well, then let's just save that one for the live coding.
Later.
Okay. Is there a probability? Is there a probability of having an out-of-the-box, high-level state management solution coming with Flutter? Choosing an external state management solution doesn't seem convincing to me. What do we have to do to convince you? Yeah, there's value listable builder and value.
It's got everything built in.
Yeah,
right. And inherited widget.
You have inherited widget. You have set state. What else do you need?
Yeah, really. It's there are things already built in, and everything else builds on those. So it really has to have those anyway. At least it needs Mark needs build somewhere, right? That's the important part. Got to have access to Mark needs build.
On that one, I was
any other
recently
thoughts on
discussing this. I always tell people that it's all set state anyway, right? Like use whatever you want for your state management. It's all set state anyway. But I'm not sure who said it. Like you're all tiny on my screen, but like somebody said, right? It's inherited widget or set state, right? Which one is the lowest level? Is in my mind, it's always set state. But I recently was wondering about.
Yeah.
Both actually.
Oh.
It's more complicated than that because the actual lower level is in the element tree. There's actually the way it actually marks the element as dirty actually is both lead to that.
Oh.
The difference between inherited, the whole idea of inherited widget is just to automatically rebuild widgets when the inherited widget changes its state. So the inherited widget has the should notify function. If that returns true, then it will rebuild those other widgets and notify them and then rebuild them and call their did change dependencies function. Right? That's all that. That's literally what inherited widget does. So that's your inbuilt dependency management in terms of widgets. Set state is more of I'm going to set the state of my current widget that I'm in, right? So it's not normal that you would hand your set state function elsewhere or pass a reference to it to somewhere else to have it set your state, although you could. But a lot of the stuff that builds on top of the state management side of things just normally builds on the element tree, so like hook widget and things like that, which are very similar.
And all of them essentially just invalidate a part of that tree, right?
Yeah. There's I'm gonna mess the name of the function up now. Hang on, I'm gonna dig it out. Mark needs build or something like that. I think it is.
Yeah, Mark needs build. I mentioned it earlier, like about 10.
Yeah, I'm not sure if
30 seconds earlier.
Yeah, Mark needs build on an element. Yeah, literally what it comes down to. So let me pop this open on stream for people, just so we know what we're talking about. Yeah. So on the element that we're just talking about, every build context effectively has this mark needs build. Marks an element as dirty and adds its global list of which to rebuild on the next frame. Ta-da!
Oh, so and set state essentially calls that.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. I never checked into this. Like that makes a lot of sense.
The set state adds an extra check to make sure that you are not already inside build when you do it.
Yep.
And it what else?
Does that be an infinite loop?
That does it as well. By the looks of it.
No, Mark needs build. I don't think checks that. There's an assert missing.
There's it here. It's all this lifestyle is active.
Okay, but look at set state. It shows that it's making an additional check. Set state does an additional check.
It literally says it in the error message. Call during build. Right?
Yeah.
But it should. You should.
What we're saying, set state does something different.
Set state adds an extra layer before it calls marking build, but I can't remember what the extra layer is.
So it doesn't assert. It does do this thing where it runs the function, looks at the result of the function. If that result is a future, it will throw.
Oh, maybe that was it. Yeah. To make
and it just goes mark needs build.
Okay.
Sorry, it's underneath there. Let me try the question. Mark needs build. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
It is fun. I had some fun building my own render objects and elements for a map tiling system. I never finished it, but that might be fun to explore because just understanding the three trees and actually customizing that stuff to meet your requirements. We have maybe a custom complex widget you're trying to build is actually really helpful.
No.
Wait, what's next?
Cool. And if you want to get a question in, just put it in the YouTube chat or the Twitter chat and or Twitch chat, I should say. Twitch. And put a Q in front of it, and I will pick it up. We're down to like 3 or 4 questions. It would be a good time to get your questions in now. How about this one? I think this one we have to next. Any favorite packages to show data in a bar or line chart besides FL charts? Because that's the one
I was going to say. I use FL charts. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've never particularly liked the syntax of some of the stuff in FL chart, but FL chart itself, syntactically, it can be like the interface and where you use it can be improved, but it's flawless in terms of it's really good, it's stable, it's been well thought out, well utilized. The number of options and configurations is through the roof.
Crazy, yeah.
But yeah, FL chart.
Just be sure you're not using one of the ones from the Sync Fusion packages because those are commercial. That's what you need to avoid carefully here. Let me push a couple buttons again and go back to here, and we're going to do this. I'm getting this error when loading a network image from Firebase. The link is valid, the file is downloading for the browser, but not showing in Flutter Web. Object progress event.
I have
wants to tackle
no
that?
idea what's going on there.
So when downloading an image from Firebase, the link is valid. File is downloading from the browser, but not showing in Flutter Web. So tell you what. There was some changes the way that Web was processing images on Flutter Web is processing images in the last release or so. So I'm going to say go back a few releases, right? Go back a few releases like 3.19 and see if you're still having the problem. If you're not, then there's obviously a bug in Flutter that you found that is in the most recent changes, possibly.
He's claiming that in iOS it's working.
Yeah, but it's not web. It's a completely different platform. It's not.
Okay.
The platform is the problem. Is that you're on web, and web is so a progress event is an object from Java from the browser JavaScript to actually indicate the download event is occurring, right? So obviously that should not be coming back. You're seeing an error about that. What the error might mean is another thing. You could not be. You might not be. It's quite difficult to. If you've not set up the Flutter error widget correctly, or the unhandled exception handler for the uncaught exception handler on your Flutter app, then you're probably losing the details for the errors as well. Especially in the browser, you'll just see like the one print line, which is what you're saying here. So maybe might be worth adding Sentry or something. It won't be cause related because the Firebase download links come through storage.googleapis.com, which has cause policies around that, I believe. They're not normally, unless you've changed the bucket cause policies, maybe.
I actually think they by default don't do cause, right? You need to set.
That's what I'm saying. Like by default, they don't require it, right?
No, I think they do actually. Like because like in the Firebase documentation, it says specifically what gsutil command to run to set the correct course headers, and that would explain why a iOS client is not affected, right? Because is my feeling, but
I was pretty sure the default cause for when you create a Firebase project, it creates the
we got people suggesting you do have set cores.
Bucket, it does it for you, but yeah. Let me see if I can find that documentation, but yeah.
If only we had something like Gemini Advanced that we could ask the question. Gemini Advanced is getting spooky smart.
There's a section in the documentation, cause configuration.
Of course.
I might have known that, Simon.
Right.
Of course.
It took quite some fights to get that in there.
All right.
But it doesn't mean it can't work without that. I honestly don't know.
Yes, the link is in the chat for anyone that wants to find that piece. Web storage download files, course configuration. The documentation does say star in the origin. You probably don't want star in your origin. It's good to test it. Once you've tested it and it works, then you want to change that origin to your URL for your web page that you're using, and then also probably add in there like localhost 8080 or whatever port you're using. But during development you can use it, right? But when you release, I'm assuming, please tell me you're doing this, whoever the questioner was, is having two separate buckets, or these two separate Firebase projects, one for production, one for development. But yeah, make sure that you've got Ashutosh. Make sure you've got those different environments set up separately, because then you can have your cause policies on your development set to star, and then your cause policies set on your production to your actual production domain, and that will keep things protected. Nope, a single project. Time to change that then.
Yep.
So in fact, Firebase actually has a lovely feature which lets you set
in the configuration. This is a production one. It just gives you a little rocket ship and alert icon to say that you're in the production workspace environment, and don't screw with things, otherwise you're gonna have trouble. But yeah, no, definitely you want to. As soon as you at least by the time you release your app, you need to have a separate environment, because once you release it, you can't no longer do development in the same environment that your users are using, because if you screw it up, your users see that. And also, you don't want to lose all your production user data. That would be a bad day.
Nobody's ever done that.
No one's ever tested production. No one's ever gone to the production database and typed out a SQL query, delete something, and
Yep.
Nobody I've ever worked with has confused the fact that they were logged into the production server rather than the test server and accidentally deleted the live database. Nobody I know has ever done that. No. That's why when I log in to the production server, I put a red border around my terminal window. That's really helpful if you have that set up that way. Yes. Anyway, next thing, I guess, right? In the did change. Oh yeah. Sorry,
folks. I'm gonna drop off. I definitely need to get some travel booked. Otherwise, I won't be going anywhere next year. Good seeing you all.
Good to see you.
You're welcome anytime.
Anytime.
Yeah, come on back. Come on back now. You hear? All right. Here we go. In the did change dependencies. What is the dependencies, or what are the dependencies? Is it the things and values stored in the inherited widget? Wow, no, it's a lot of stuff, isn't it?
So in the widget, in that widget that has the function did change dependencies, in this build method, you're probably going to have something like, say, media query dot size of context. And that effect, the parent media query is the dependency of that widget now, because you've made that link. By doing the of, that links it up, and that makes it the dependency. So when the media query size changes, your widget will rebuild, right? That's what it is. So each widget has its own set of dependencies on what inherited widgets change, what should rebuild when they change.
Does it also work for like PubSub with Provider and RiverPod? Those end up as dependencies that trigger this?
I don't know.
It doesn't know. All right. Sorry for asking you something that even Simon didn't know. Okay, I'm sorry.
I don't actually quite. I am the financial of the RiverPod internals.
Okay, fine. That's okay. All right, moving on. Moving on to something Simon can answer. Here we go. Dart support and cloud functions is the most requested feature. Will it be implemented? Isn't it already?
You can do it now. It's already there.
Yeah.
There you go.
We've done stuff on it, haven't we? Like, it seemed like a long time ago we did like some Dart functions.
You know that Cloudflare implemented a specific set of how-tos to run their Dart functions on their Cloudflare edge, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of ways of doing this. I mean, it all depends on obviously what cloud function provider you're talking about. Assuming you mean Google. Google supports this. So Google, like also Cloud Run supports what do we call them? Containers, right? As the base for your function. There's a functions framework package, which is the bit you're probably missing. So when you get a request come in, we'll have some parameters past that request, and you need to understand the protocol and how to extract those features. So what you're probably missing out is this package, functions framework. This is basically a way of doing cloud functions with Dart. There you go. So you declare a function as a cloud function, you run the generator, and then you can then sync it and deploy it and all the rest of it, and actually have cloud functions written in Dart. There you go. Google Cloud Run, App Engine, Knative. This Google Cloud Functions, I think it does support them now, but not as an official language, but as a runtime framework. I forget where it is now, but yeah. But yeah, there you go. So that's probably the bit you're missing. Pop it in the chat.
Sure. Okay. Let's call that done. Let's go on to this one. Can you look at this issue on the Flutter repo? It's issue 160511.
I could. 160511.
Yep.
Yep. just like it sounds.
Oh, before we say anything else, this little notice at the top, for those that don't know, yes, they started merging the Flutter engine and framework repositories into one single unified repository. And this will probably be ongoing for a couple of weeks, and they'll have announcements. But yeah, just be warned, things are going to be changing. And
Yeah.
you do not want to rebase at this time. I'm letting you know.
Yes.
Create a new project. What is this? Target input element must be the active input element.
Targeted for what?
Oh, this is a lovely dynamic return here. Yeah.
Where are your types? We have a graphic that gets popped up on the Discord when somebody does that. Where are your types? What is this all about?
I don't know, because it didn't
when I guess you get this target element equals DOM element. So this is a Flutter web issue. There's a focus. Basically, they're saying there's a focus management problem with inputs on Flutter web. Compute event offset to target obviously somehow accesses the event, and it's not the.
So are you looking for a fix or a workaround, or do you just want to know the status of people working on that? What's the question actually here? We looked at the issue. Okay, yes. Can you look at the issue? Yes, we can look at the issue. We just did. But I don't think that
worked perfectly. Expected it stops the debugger. Yeah, because it crashed.
Yeah.
So if you've got a problem with it stopping the debugger whilst you're developing right now, simply disable if you look at your debugs, your breakpoint settings, there's normally a tick box or a setting which allows you to turn off breaking code in code that's not your own, basically. So if the framework has an error, it doesn't break the debugger, and now you can get on like normal. There you go, problem solved until this bug is resolved. I don't have any answer for you really. This is. I mean, we could go hunting down an internal problem, but we're not going to do that on stream right now with questions waiting, right? So. Interesting, but equally, I'm not really seeing like a massive problem here. Like, it's an assert.
Yeah.
Right.
It might even be a false assert that actually doesn't trigger anything.
Can you tell what's wrong? Yeah, it says here the target input element must be the active input element. That's what's wrong. Sorry,
it's a bug. It's a bug, and we're not the people to debug it. So we have to wait until somebody fixes it. Yeah, that's kind of how that works. Yeah, it's not like we work for Google. It's not like we can start working on this today and fix it for you. So, we're kind of
you can start working on this, Randall.
You can no. I don't know. The web. Oh, I've tried not to remember anything about DOMs and stuff. I do not want.
So this is on the most recent version, 3.27. So I'm assuming that if you go back a few releases, this isn't a problem.
Maybe.
See what's changed. I mean, you can figure out if
you're gonna go back to a previous version, be sure you use Puro. It's pure.
You can go back, like it shows you the files in there that are called where the problem exists now, right? Yeah. You can just go and compare the files at previous version that you use known to be working and the ones that aren't now. See what's changed. Understand what the problem is. Right. There's lots of options, but yeah.
Indeed, and this is true for sure. It's open source. I mean, it's go look at the source, figure out what's broken, fix it yourself, submit a PR. Do the nice things. That's the way this works. Okay, this one will take a bit of time and a little bit of thinking. Tips on creating an engaging experience in Flutter. If we knew that, we'd all be rich.
I mean, tips on creating an engaging experience: make it nicely animated, make it engaging.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a design problem, right? Like the problem you're talking about here is how do you make an app engaging? It doesn't matter about Flutter, right?
Yeah.
In Flutter can be removed and it'll be the same thing. How do I make my app engaging? Well,
that's all about UX, right? That's all about the user experience, how they're going to behave, how they're going to utilize the app. And we could go on about all the little UX tips and things that,
Right.
you know, how you position the screen, how it looks, and things that the user expect to see, how they expect things to behave. And I think that's more about, I mean, about any libraries. What do you mean any libraries?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, you could use, you know, the animation library, or you could use, I mean, but you need to build the app.
I would like to say that in the absence of any design training that I clearly haven't had, one of the great things I really like is material.io as a website to just walk through sort of basic paradigms of interaction that the Google experts have figured out over the years in terms of interacting with widgets and interacting with sliders and how many buttons at most there should be in a tab bar, things like that kind of knowledge is extremely useful. So I'd recommend just browsing through there at least to start to figure out sort of accepted practices for basic decent UX and work your way from there. Yeah, you know, like I said, in the absence of my formal training for that, which is zero, you know, that the stuff like material.io as a website is definitely very useful. And almost all those things are directly implementable in Flutter because Flutter is a first class implementer of material. So, yeah, it's engaging. Make sure it keeps popping up even after a reboot. Yes.
Yeah, keep bugging the user with pop-ups. That engages them, right? Anyway,
right.
yeah, there's an animations package here, which is the like the official like Google one. There's also one. What's it called? Animate, is it? The one by
Flutter Animate. Flutter Animate.
Flutter
_animate.
And that one.
I brought that up during the talk yesterday, and people were making comments on the fact that I was making comments about that during the talk.
I mean, there's lots of ways of you know, doing animations and everything else, and
right.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
yeah, but also Google like UX design or gamification of your app, how to keep users, you know, engaged.
I mean, depends. But the thing, it depends on what you're building, right? There's not much we can really give in terms of experience.
True.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right.
Next, moving on. How about this? How about it's a coding thing. How about improving the Levenstein distance calculation in the repo bdickon/languages? Raised to PR 262. Live coding. This will be fun. He promises fun.
And with it.
This will be fun.
What's the question? Live coding this will be fun? Question, maybe?
Who knows? Who knows? Only when it's done will we know that it was not fun. Right.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want me to save this for the possible live coding?
No, not particularly.
We're not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
I got this once on like coding interview, so
yeah, it's a coding interview, right? Okay.
No.
Here's a Firebase question, and Puff is still in the chat, but he's gone from here. When running Firebase init, I want to use it in the Firebase emulator suite. No Spark plan activated. I don't even know that question.
No.
Don't know.
What's the problem with like?
Puff is screaming at home. I can tell.
Also says no Spark plan activated. Well, then activate the Spark plan.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, it's like saying, like, I don't want to pay for something, so I want to be able to do this, but I don't want to pay for it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're saying that you can't do it because you don't have the Spark plan activated.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Emulator runs without any cost.
Yeah.
So you just need the plan activated, and you're going to be safely within the free tier of it because you're not talking to it at all. Yeah. That's simple. There we go. We solved that. Let's go on to the next one here. And then this is like the last question we have, so we can probably go immediately to live coding after this and stop taking questions if you want to do that, Simon. But let's see, fixed Puro error in a PR number 92, but version not updated. That's probably for the Puro owner, not for us. We don't control Puro being released. I talk about it a lot.
He needs like. He's basically saying, "Can you go like this?"
He wants people to go like it, so they'll include the.
Oh, this is the like bombing. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, everybody go like this. Everybody go like. Where's the? But he didn't put the actual repo for that.
Well, he'd have to give a URL, and he can't, right? So.
Okay. If we go look in pub for Puro,
I'll go grab it.
That'll have the GitHub link.
Why are we bombing this?
It's at the top of GitHub at the puro.dev site.
Yeah.
Isn't like self promotion?
I don't think yeah. I don't think
issue 92, PR 92.
Yeah, what is 92 about?
Yeah, fix bad state, no element error in Puro version constructed by using firstware or no.
I bet that's related to the eval or REPL then, if it's about evaluation and constructors. That's one of the hidden.
I'm not sure what you want to update earlier. What am I missing?
PR 92 needs thumbs up. Is it probably PR 92 thumbs up?
You can give it thumbs up. Yeah, I'll post it in the chat. Why not?
Sure.
There you go.
Poll 92. Indeed. All right.
Sure, the Puro author is
it's not going to be like what?
Pascal is reviewing it. So
yes, great. Pixel toast. We got one more question actually. Let's see here. I can't click over there, can I? That's right. Great. I click on my YouTube chat. That is not going to be useful. How about here? If I click here, when I start a Flutter app for web in profile mode, I don't have extensions anymore. All the preset-like locations and location override are also gone. In profile mode. What extensions?
That's what I'm trying to work out. Do you mean browser extension? No, it's like there's not like extensions in code. All the preset like locations in location override. I
don't know
what you mean.
Elaborate.
All the browser extensions disappear. Is that what they're saying?
Oh, that's what he means. That's what he means. Yeah, and you know why? Because it spins it up as an incognito window.
Oh.
That's always what happens when you launch, because you don't want all the cookies and everything from your previous sessions, right? All you do is copy the URL, stick it in your normal browser. There you go.
Yep.
Right? Problem solved. There's actually other ways of starting it up as well, like on the command line, right? Where you can specify like -d web server. It's a hidden device.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. We got one more. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to say, if you start up in web server mode, then you can just copy the URL and stick in your normal browser, right? It won't try and launch your browser.
Right. And then,
but you'll be profiling your website with all these extensions. Whatever you're doing as well. So just saying.
That would be silly. Yeah, that'd be silly. All right. Can you pass Dart UI and return a UI image from an isolate?
No.
No.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit through the isolate send.
No, the problem is the Dart UI library only works on the main Dart thread. Doesn't work in isolate background threads. At least last time I looked at it, but that was a whole big thing, and it's still, as far as I know, it hasn't changed. So no. The thing is, it calls, it has to call out to native code to decode the images and a bunch of other stuff. Like, it's not something you can just do from any isolate. Yeah, no, it's just one of those things. I'm interested to know what you're doing, which requires you to do this, to be honest.
Right, like people want to compute an image in a different thread because they think it's expensive to compute the image, I guess.
So the thing is, what you can do, you could decode the JPEG into the bitmap in a background isolate, and then take that bitmap, which is a immutable buffer, and pass that from one to the other, and then pass it to the decode function, decode image from
pixel list, I think it's called something like that from list, where you actually specify the width, height, and the format of the RGB data. That's a direct one-to-one. There's no processing. I just don't know what you're going to, honestly, I don't think you're going to benefit that much from doing that. I don't know what you'd get that much from putting your image processing on a background isolate. If you're trying to decode like a 5 megapixel image, then yeah, it's going to be slow. Well, 5, whatever, 80 megapixel, whatever. Pick a large number, right? But yeah, it's going to be slow.
And then you're going to have the expense of the send port, receive port time as well on that, unless it's going to be exit the isolate and pass it back that way.
No, what I'm just trying to say is on the, yeah, I'm just saying that on the main thread, like you want it, can't see any reason why you wouldn't want to do this on the main Dart thread. I think maybe if you're on a background isolate and you need to process images, then it becomes a problem. What you end up having to do is doing a ping pong. Essentially, you have to ping a message back up to the main thread. The main thread has to pick that up, process it, and then pass maybe a reference back to the isolate, which it can then use later on to get it from a cache. Like I've done all this stuff before. It's not great, but this are the limitations. I mean, the answer really is probably to architect it differently so that, you know, you're doing your background stuff. You don't need the images until it passes back to the front end. Once the result of whatever you're doing in the background isolate runs back to the foreground isolate, then you can, the main isolate, you can then decode the images there and then present them to the user and whatever. I mean, ideally, just leave it to the Flutter framework to present them, right?
We have one question that I'm going to answer, which is just simply, yes, we talked about decorators earlier in the show. Download the show and watch it from the beginning, and you'll hear us talk about decorators.
What controversy?
It's not really controversy. And well, it's
I think maybe it's probably about it's probably more like it's this kind of thing that, you know, you're learning Flutter widgets this way. Other people are doing it different ways. It's like, this is the way we want to do it. You know, it's just like, you know, but what we call, like, what was it? The holy wars of languages back in the day, right? C is better, like pitch better, C, and like, you know, choose the right thing for the right job, right?
Everything's better than PHP. That's easy. Yeah, that's not a controversy ever. That's completely a shipped product. Yes, exactly. So let me turn this off. Let's see. I got to hide current comment. We do have Puff actually answered a little bit at the bottom here. Let's see if it's not. I guess using the emulator. It could be something broken in the recent changes to storage. That's interesting. So. Crazy there. And there was one other thing I thought I saw. No, I think that was it. So we're down till people keep asking questions. So let's cut off questions so we can do some live coding.
Yeah.
And well, let me take this one last one then, just because it just came in under the wire. The Flutter web DOM issue. Which DOM issue?
The one, like, we don't work for Flutter.
Right.
Yeah.
So the one that you said is that you marked this the issue that was said. I know
when they ship it, it will be solved. Yes.
How about you could fix it
not the day before?
Go fix it. Submit a PR, then it'll be fixed.
Right. Yeah, that's it. Oh, so this is that same person that's asking about this bug that is currently in the system. Yes, this is. Let me introduce you to this little notion called open source.
Now, I know the feeling that he's under, right? It's because when there's a bug and it's stopping you from doing your work, you know, it's just like, it's really frustrating. You need to look at ways of workarounds. You need to figure out what's going on. That is your job as a developer, right? To make it work, no matter what is thrown at you. And if you can't make it work, suggest workarounds or other solutions that are near the resulting goal, right? Like, you know, if you're waiting for someone else to do something, well, then you're going to have to wait, right? And it's at their time and their schedule. They're not best to you. You're not paying them to do it, are you? So at the end of the day is, you're lucky that you get it fixed, right? And it didn't cost you a penny. So
you're getting a hell of a lot for free here. That's a real good bang for the buck.
So really, real like this attitude that you have, and I've had it in the past as well, and that feeling. I know the feeling you're talking about. I think that it kind of revolves back around to, you just need to make sure that what's the word?
you just need to try yourself to fix the problem, right? Like at the end of the day,
Right.
that is where it comes back to.
Okay, so we're gonna cut off
You
questions.
can always, to be
and-
clear, you can always start making the work yourself. Start trying to understand it. Put your notes in the issue ticket, and present the issue ticket in the Discord channel, in the Flutter, in the frameworks, Hacker Frameworks group, or whatever it's called, and get some discussion going. People might have an idea for you to follow, and they go, "Oh, did you check this file because that bit of the state management focus handling is over there?" And then you can go, "No, I haven't. I'll go look." And you can work with people that have the knowledge that you have about how the framework works. But I'll be honest with you right now, you're going to be waiting. You're going to be on a 2-week probably hiatus, I reckon, right now at least, on getting any bugs fixed.
Yep.
Right. 'cause
Right, the
we're
merge of
doing
the repo,
merge.
and then Christmas,
Holidays.
Christmas
and
holidays. So
Yes.
yeah,
Festivus. People celebrating Festivus, I'm sure.
so
next
yeah,
week.
you'll be lucky to get anything in the change in the repo, I think, right now, unless it's affects
Airing of
everybody.
grievances. Airing of grievances. I got a bunch of problems with you.
We got to put up
All
the
right.
poll.
I got to put up the poll. Now it's time for feats of strength. All right. So we had a couple of live coding things. The one was this one that I still saved.
Let's see what I can
Drawing
get.
labels, getting them even. And then you had the other one. What was the other one? There was another earlier live coding thing. I turned off the star on it, so I don't remember what it was.
The distance.
I've got them saved here. One was did the MA come back with the layout that he was having problems with? Maybe
Oh, there's a gist. There's a gist here. There's a gist. Where'd the gist go? I just saw it. We just put it into the chat. I had to enable it. Oh, wait. Where did it go? It was in the chat.
Maybe they deleted it because I don't see a gist in here anywhere.
Yeah, you're right. Oh no, here it is, right here.
You found it?
It's around 10:40. Let's see here, 10:40. How long ago is that? That's 5 minutes ago. I don't see it in the chat there, but it's in the YouTube chat.
Oh, interesting.
Can you pop it, copy and paste into the private chat we got?
Yeah, let me see here.
Maybe that can help. We also didn't we have some stuff we could finish off from? We could finish off the index stuff.
I don't know how. Oh, there. Okay, there.
I pasted it.
Sorry,
Copy.
I pasted the gist.
Oh.
I
you
don't know if that's the one, but
This one, right? I guess it's the same.
yeah.
Yes.
Same. Right, guys.
Gist.
So have fun.
all right. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks
Thanks for
for
having me.
Go get sleep.
Yeah, sleep's important.
Yep.
Yes. It's like 2 a.m. for Raphael, so glad he could stay up to hang out with us. All right.
Right.
So
get
do
this
we? Let
Let's
me get rid
on
of
the
this.
road.
Let me. What screen am I in there? There we go. Let me get rid of this. Oops. Hide screen comment. There we go. Now we're prepared for watching Simon's screen.
What can possibly go wrong?
Of course, nothing at all.
Nothing ever goes wrong. So here we go. So we've got some code. Right. We had native interop stuff. We've got layout, flexible layouts and stuff. Drawing line. Oh, there's a drawing dividers one. Roberto.
Yeah.
I tried to draw labels and dividers on each division in a slider, but some of the dividers and labels are not aligned with the division. Maybe
That's not the. Yeah.
That was the question that came in at 1738.
That's not the one. The one with the gist was the layout one that was deeply nested.
Oh, okay. Let's have a look at that. Hang on.
Oh, yeah, with all the rows and
rows
columns
and
and expanded and fractionally sized boxes and.
Oh, was that one? No, that's images. This one. This was the image decoding one.
Okay. All
Right
right.
up.
Let's have a quick look.
We don't know.
Let's look. I swear we had something around this similar before. This code looks familiar.
Maybe he stole it from you.
Cell pattern to image. Just want to create an image and an isolate of pixel byte and white and black grid. Okay. Canvas size per bytes. I always thought this kind of interesting when people do this, right? Because it's, yeah, okay, we'll come back to that in a second. But it always kind of makes me amused when I see this, because if you're just doing a grid like it's like this black and white like hatch pattern, then you don't need the cells don't need to be larger than 1 pixel, because you can just render a one. You can just render it larger. You just turn off the anti-aliasing. Pattern height, pattern width. That just square cell size. What are you calculating here? Start X, start Y. Fill the entire screen with black.
Oh, we fixed something. We fixed something that was recorded.
Well, thank Puff. That was all Puff.
You can leave your fee at the door, please. So
for those that don't know what we're looking at here, basically, this is generating raw bitmap data, right? So what this is RGBA, so red, green, blue alpha channels of each pixel and the values of each one. So bytes per pixel is 4 because you've got red, green, blue alpha, and then the canvas size is the X and Y, the width and height, which is grid dimension passed in times 40, so 40 times whatever that dimension is. So it's a big square of pixels. Then this whole cell division thing to work out where it wants to start. This already looks like too many pixels for any purpose, but we'll see. Bytes per pixel. So this fills in with RGB with black, and then alpha 255. Goes through pattern height, pattern width. This is 10,000 pixels by 10,000 pixels. Let's go through 10,000 iterations of each loop.
Oh,
yeah, I'm having deja vu. I think you're right. I think we've seen this someplace before and fixed it.
Top X, top Y, PX, PY, cell size, effective cell size, and is placing the white squares down. But why? I'm looking at this and go, why would you ever want to do this? And why would you want to do it this size? Like, yes, we did do this. We had a grid of 10,000 pixels. I remember we did something like this before, but like,
yeah, this is very familiar.
But what are you? But why?
What are you making? Yes.
I mean, even if
he wants to burn his battery. He just wants to burn his battery somehow.
I mean, you've got every 10 pixels of a 10,000 by 10,000 image you're trying to make black and white. I mean, just calculate the number of cells you've got and calculate that number of pixels. But even then, like, you don't. I'm just struggling to understand why you want to do all of this, and there's a lot of iterations to go through for not much impact. Like you're only ever outputting the canvas size.
Well, that's weird.
So he's working. This is what I'm trying to say. He works out these numbers here. He does all these iterations to work out the canvas position on the canvas size, to then work out the offset and paint it. When what you want better off doing is just looping over the canvas. The canvas is always a fixed size. You don't need to do 10,000 iterations to work this out. Yeah, well, exactly. So what's the major purpose code? To draw an image right now of a checkerboard image, right? A black and white like checkerboard image. I'm just not seeing the reason why you would want to do this.
I swear we've had.
We did something similar. I mean, the thing is,
he just posted in. It's part of the Game of Life.
Right. Okay, you're doing Game of Life. Well, you're doing it wrong then, right? Because the whole point of like this, like, okay,
I think I know what the problem. I think. Hang on. You're doing it wrong. Okay. So you're basically what you're saying here is the entire plane of the game is 10,000 cells by 10,000 cells, right? In the game of life that you're doing, right? So if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, let me see if I can find a game of life. There's got to be like a.
Yeah, I'm sure there's an
Like a
entire
wiki
website.
page or something for
There
it.
you go. That'll do. Wiki page. That'll do. Right.
Yeah,
That's it.
there. Glider gun.
So this
Glider
is
gun.
this is called Conway's Game of Life, also named just Game of Life, right? And it's rules set around when pixels live or die based on a relationship between their neighbors. So you get these interesting patterns and behaviors come out of this. You can actually build huge amounts of structure out of these repeating patterns where they like, you can see here, these like patterns here and various other things. And people build weird and wonderful structures out of this. It's an interesting thought idea, basically, but there's no game here, right? Like there's no like, it plays itself, right? It's an always never-ending thing. Now, although these are pixels, right? Although these are each one of these is a pixel, it's not necessarily to have an image of those pixels, right? The problem you've got going on is you're conflating state and image. Image is the representation of your state, right? Just because the state is pixels doesn't mean your image is also pixels. You do not need a 10,000 by 10,000 image or to loop that many times. What you're doing here is you're viewing a portion of this larger size, right? So if you've got 10,000 by 10,000, you're only going to be viewing a smaller portion. You can pan around that image. We're only rendering that many pixels on the screen, right? First of all, right? Which is why you have the canvas size, right? Which is, in this case, grid dimension is 10 times 40, right? So 400 by 400 out of your 10,000 by 10,000. There's no need to do all these iterations, right? So we could look at this if you want. Like we could explain this a bit more. The difference here is what you want is to keep your where you actually is odd is even. You're just doing a grid right now. I mean, ideally, what you would do is you would have your cell data being your 10,000 by 10,000 cells as an array of bits, right? So 8 bits per byte. You can make that really compact, and then you can then sample that at sample that data or sections of that data to represent the image that you see on the screen. And I would do that in a custom painter and not even bother with any of the images. You don't need an image to draw this. It's black and white. You're not downloading, like, you do not need RGB channels to draw Conway's Game of Life.
Yeah. Another approach might be having a grid based.
He says no full view has to be rendered. Well, even if you're doing the full view, you're not got that many pixels on the screen, so you wouldn't ever display that. It doesn't matter if you zoomed out, so it was like a small speck, like a small square on your screen. You're still never rendering more than the pixels you have on your canvas, right? So yeah, I don't know how you iterate on this, and what was even the problem with this? You're trying to do the image on the background thread. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
This is like about as best you're going to get if you want to do it this way, right? But what you actually want to do is do all this calculation of your buffer on the back end, and you're throwing your uint8 list back from the background isolate to the foreground isolate, and the foreground isolate is then processing it into a image, and that image can then be posted to the foreground thread in a stream and then displayed on the screen. And you'll probably have to work out what your frame rate limitations are around producer consumer. You're definitely gonna have drop frames probably if you're going to zoom out. I mean, yeah. The other one is you could build with the new stuff. You can build a shader. I think
he said that. He said later I feed that into a shader, then it works better. But what he's missing is first image generation.
first image generation. What?
Yeah, that's what he put in there.
And that it never crossed my mind. Okay, I don't know what you need to give context in your answer because there's a delay in the stream. So you need to explain what you're talking about. Like saying yes, okay, it's not going to answer anything.
Yeah, it is never very good in the chat because it's 8 seconds delayed. We don't know which it you're talking about.
Yeah.
And what so ideally, so what again? It's this kind of notion about where you're pushing the data, right? So you've got all this data that you're building, which is your state, which is the effectively the pixels of Conway's Game of Life. Cells, really, is the name. But you can push that data as far as you can to the graphics card, and then the graphics card can sample that to produce the images on the screen. That would be the most optimal way. At the moment, you're sampling and building it on the CPU. You're doing the GPU's job, right? Because you can get all the aliasing and subsampling and all the other things that you can do to actually benefit this. Do that all in the shader, do that all in the GPU where it needs to be done. You can even send it across as a raw bitmap, a raw 2-bit image, and sample the bits of that image in the GPU shader. That I don't. Okay, there's a certain amount of overhead in terms of pushing that much data versus how much time you're going to spend extracting the bits from that data. Do it simply, and then if you want to try it and get more performance, maybe that's a way to try it. First, I create an image with custom paint, and then capture an image and feed it into custom paint, which uses shader.
It seems way more complicated to render a grid of life objects than I would expect.
Yeah.
Capture an image and feed it into a custom paint, which uses the shader. Yeah.
This is definitely going off to the deep end.
I think I understand what you're trying to say here, but like the shader needs to sample the original cell data, not an image. I think the problem here is you're trying to format an image to use what's called a sampler, a 2D sampler. You don't want to use a 2D sampler with a shader, right? You want to just send a buffer of your black and white pixels in. Right. You need 1 byte per pixel at most. You don't need RGB data.
Yeah.
I mean, we could try this. Let's answer some more questions before we get off onto a tangent, right?
Let's do the other live coding we had about getting the slider and labels working correctly.
Yeah, slider. Let's go to slider. Yeah. You only use sampler 2D. That's your problem. You only use sampler 2D.
Trying to make a chisel do the job of a hammer, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna have to drop.
All right.
Right. Thanks for dropping by, John.
I'll see you. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Happy holidays. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Happy Festivus. Happy Festivus.
All right.
Ciao. 18. Sure. Right. Let's drop all that from last time and start. Right. What are we doing? Slider with labels. Yeah, what was that? He was saying that it was like it wasn't going to like display.
Do you still have that saved, or should I go find it again?
Oh no, I've got it here. I tried to draw labels and dividers on each division in a slider, particularly a slider with capital S, the slider widget. But some of the dividers and labels are not aligned with the division. Maybe some kind of live code about this. But let's just give it a go.
Fascinating. Maybe slider has a problem.
Is he being custom draw? Like, let's have a look. I've done some similar things in the past where using global keys to kind of capture the position and then render text that way. There's a couple of
Right,
different.
right.
I'm not sure. So divisions. It's been a donkey's age since I've actually tried using a slider, so bear with me. Let's make the state form. Value equals. Let's do what? Let's do. Do you want an int? Do you want an int? Is it typed? I don't know if it's typed. It's always an int. No, it's always a double. Is that what you're going to tell me? Whoops.
Double.
That's what double. Yeah. All right. So we have min and max. Yeah. Min 0, max 100.
Yep.
On change value equals value. I mean, what else is there to do here apart from run, I guess?
Are you showing the value as a text field too, or does it automatically do that?
We could, yeah, we can put a text label. In fact, I should probably wrap this in a second. Then, in fact, a column. Yes, yes. Yeah.
It looks like the sun will be gone just about the time the show is over. Great. It's that time of the year.
Right. And that's main axis.
Shortest day of the year on Saturday because it's the beginning of winter.
Right. And let's make that text larger.
Northern Hemisphere anyway. Sorry for you guys that are down under. It's the longest day of the year for you.
Right. There we go. And there should be 10 stops. 10% each. Okay. Let's make it 5 stops just to give us a bit more room, I guess. Cool. Okay. So now what? Draw labels. Label.
Yeah.
Label. That's just the label for the whole thing, right? So I guess if you want a custom active
How do you get custom labels?
I think that's the problem, right? He's going custom drawing and you can't get them to align to the points, right? I think that's the issue that you're seeing, right?
Oh, look, label. Label.
So you can actually do value like this. And then there you go, 40, 80.
Oh, look.
What is that? Right. Well, I mean, like, you know, you could do Marco, welcome. Try and draw labels and dividers on each division of a slider. Labels and dividers. I mean, sure, you can draw dividers and labels on each one. Should we do that? I don't know. I mean, that's. Oh, we use slider theme with a custom painter to try and draw labels and dividers. All right. So.
Slider theme. What's in that?
So I have we'll do a custom painter. We'll call it slider label painter. There you go.
So the slider's just going to be a child of the custom paint object?
Yeah. Yeah, why not?
Oh.
So it's kind of interesting. So
I mean, at this point, I'm like, well, why am I even bothering with a slider?
Yeah, because you're going to draw most of it anyway.
I mean, I would honestly just do a custom widget. You say custom widget like it's like something special. It's not difficult. But I'm just looking at this going, well, you know, we're just trying to, like, again, abuse the material design. The slider is a material design widget. It's designed to work a certain way and be a certain way. Yeah, I'm not. Oh, look, slider type material, adaptive, right? Yeah, I'm not totally convinced that it's good to do it this way, to be fair. But we could like have a look at it, and then we could like look at what it is to make something custom when you come up to these kind of problems, because you end up going. What you're doing right now, what we're going to do with this is end up essentially, I think, doing more than we need to do.
You'll end up
No,
duplicating some of the code that's there anyway to drag the thumb around and stuff.
yeah,
Right?
but I mean, like this. I mean, that's literally what it boils down to, right?
Yeah. If you only had a
let's have a look,
callback every time you moved.
So first of all, slider theme. Why use slider theme? All right. Is there some particular slider theme that we should?
Slider theme data.
Oh, tick mark, active tick mark color. Is that? It's not red.
Ooh.
Tick mark shape.
Should be little 4-leaf clovers. No, I don't know.
Disabled active tick mark color. Disabled inactive tick mark color. Inactive. No, I was looking at. I was just thinking about that shape. I wonder if that's like a quick look. I always, this is always one of those things at the very beginning of. Oh, there, look, get preferred size, and it has a paint method.
Yeah, it's painting something.
Yeah, like component shape. So what we're saying is, what are we saying?
We passed a custom track shape. Oh.
Where I tried to draw. Sorry, I don't have. Yeah, that's all right. That's not a bad. That's not a bad avenue. I mean, let's have a look. But I think the problem you're going to have is it's going to be drawing out of bounds, right? Like, I'm not sure how the sizing is covered, but let's have a look.
Yeah, and what it's centered on too.
Unimplemented.
What?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Just paint it every time.
They are green, which is nice, but is it thickness or something? Track height. Let's make it. There we go.
Ooh. Oh, there we go.
We have red, maybe, and then thumb shape.
Size.
No size. Yeah, so we can do shapes.
There was,
shapes. But that's fine. Let's just say this is a 12.
if only we had documentation on slider theme.
So we've got green and red, right? So there's your active and inactive, right?
Right.
And at the moment, it's one of those interesting things, right? So we're gonna get back. Let's have a look. Let's just go further, right? So we want tick mark shape extends slider component shape. And this requires us to implement these two functions, which gives the size and everything else. So let's just whack this in here. What was it? Tick mark shape. Oh, okay. I am mistaken. It needs to be slider tick mark shape, which is slightly different.
Cool. All right. So let's go implement this and see where it takes us. So we get a preferred size. All right. So return size, I don't know, 10 by 10 right now. And then painting, we'll take the canvas or the context, the painting context, and we'll draw a box. And that rectangle will be a color slider theme dot. It's just a tick. Was it tick color or something? Active tick mark color. Sure. What is the problem with this? Oh, because that might be not. Okay, sure. I set it. And then the rectangle is going to be our offset of center and a size of 10 by 10. All right, see what we get. And look at that.
Oh, it's upper left corner is centered on the.
Yeah. It says it's. I mean, it's giving me the center of the tick, right? And this is rect is upper left. So, but we could
Offset it. Align dot center. Align alignment center.
Yeah, well, no, that's not going to do what we want to do.
Okay.
I mean, I can just negate off the what's it called? Translate and then like negative half my size, right? Like it's not like there's a bunch of ways.
Fixed size. That's usually.
It really doesn't make that much difference, right?
Sure. Oh yeah, look, nice and square and lined up. What do you know?
So I make this 10 wide and 20 tall. Okay, interesting.
The clipping.
So it doesn't actually. So it might be using up more space. Let me just, out of curiosity, let's wrap this. Yeah, let's wrap this in a not builder. Is it box border? No, not box border. It's a shape border. Okay, great. Here's a box border. Oh, it's this border, isn't it? Because that's the implementation of box border. Yeah. As well as just stick a border around so we can see where the outside edge is. So if I increase the Y to like 50, if that actually increases the, did actually get larger? Let's do 100. Yeah, it does. So the size does make a difference, even if I'm rendering it smaller, right? But this is always centered, right? So this size, the tick mark, specific, the way it chooses to do this is always around the center point. So we can't actually extend it, say, further on the bottom than it is on the top. Yes. Thumb center. Interesting. Enable animation. Okay, so if it's changing shape between enable and disable, is it enabled? So we want to draw a label, dividers. I mean, what is it that you want to draw? I mean, like we can draw like, we can do like a, and we could pass in. Here's the thing, like the problem with this tick mark shape I mean, we could make like a slider label provider kind of thing, which goes around a slider, which does this by the looks of it right now. So we could take advantage of the fact that slider does this. I think custom paint could also work. I want to draw them each division. Maybe we are using a track shape. Oh, track shape. Yeah, but well, then that's the whole point. Like the problem here is that your tick marks doesn't tell you what. I don't know why I said ticker. I'm just wondering if it doesn't really tell you which tick you're on. There's no context here. You get the render box, which is kind of nice. We might be able to query the render box as being a slider, a render slider. Hold up, there's a render slider probably. So this will be the parent box. So we could do a bit of a dodgy thing and just kind of like see if we can get the state from this. So see how it's actually using this. It would be probably more beneficial to see how it's actually using the track shape. So it gets the preferred rectangle from the track shape and works out the thumb center based on the track shape, paints it, is discrete, then it gets the tick mark shape, and here we are, adjusted track width. So it's the track rectangle width, so that's the width of the rectangle passed back from the track painter. And I have no idea which one this is. So this is probably old. I don't know. It should be Material 3. This is not. I'm not running that old version of Flutter right now. No. Anyway, adjusted track width divided by divisions is greater than 3 times the tick mark width. Okay, so basically saying, yeah, if it's too big, don't bother. Otherwise, if it's not too big, then go in here and start rendering the divisions. So we could simulate this logic here and get exactly the track mark positions, right? Yeah. The annoying thing is it doesn't tell you what division. Like ideally, you want the paint to tell you which division you're at, which would be helpful. The value of the division.
Right.
And at the moment, it just doesn't give you that. So, but it's not too difficult. So, what do we want to do? We have maybe vertical labels coming down off the track with like lines or something. Sounds like fun. So, what we'll do.
You're already exceeding my level of user interface design.
Well,
I'm already maxed out. I mean, that slider already is enough for me. So it's like, okay, well, we need more stuff for it.
Yeah. So at this point, we want to like inject, basically what we're trying to do is inject more painting that can occur during the paint function here inside the render object. The thing is, it's going to report a specific size, and this calculates that size from all the various pieces. Show value indicator, that would be the pop-up thing. Yeah, I think it makes sense just to know how it's calculating the inputs and then just do a custom paint, because otherwise you're kind of going into this realm of what is this thing doing. So if we were to just make a widget, let's just go down and we'll make a widget called we'll make a widget called slider label wrapper. Let's call that.
Okay. Naming things is hard.
Exactly. And then what do we want? We want like a list of labels. Or you have a function that we provide that generates the label. That sounds good.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So something like build label. What are we doing?
Change the string.
No, that's the wrong way around. It's that. Oops.
Got to be a function that takes an arg though.
Yep, I haven't got there yet. But yeah.
All right. All right.
Final. That's what I'm missing. All right. All right. And then inside of this container, we're going to have our custom paint. And we'll make our slide and label painter private.
I mean, doesn't build label needs an arg though, right?
Yep, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
What's the Git URL for these codes? We upload them to Git, and they provide us gists. You can find all the previous ones on gist.github.com/slightfoot, which is my gists. You'll find them here on this URL. And we'll upload the next ones, this one to there later. All right, so let's see where we're at. Distractions. So the thing is, the number of divisions is actually supplied in here. And the way that we want to construct the label, they basically have to be in sync, which is the annoying thing, right? So there's no like nice way that you can pass in what you expect the divisions to be. You're just wrapping it with something that's the same. It does kind of come down to the point of why am I doing it with a slider, right? So I'm going to show you two ways of doing this. We'll do it once with the slider with the wrapper, and then in the same file we'll do a custom one just to show how simple it actually is. If you know, I mean, the reason why these things exist is to provide you a bunch of options and a bunch of ways of doing things, but unless you're using them, well, it doesn't really make much difference. All right, so we'll leave the slider. Actually, we'll leave the slider theme with the track height and the ticks. We'll get rid of the tick mark shape, and we're going to get rid of this and replace it with a, what I call it, slider label wrapper. And this is going to have a function. And the idea behind this function is to return back the label. So should we say division I, and then or index, and we'll wrong button. No. Index, and we'll pass in. We're saying you want index. We could also have value as well. So the value at this point, we need to then min and max to do that. I don't know. Let's just do index for now, right? Okay. And we're going to need to know the divisions. So we could also have divisions passed in. I don't know if it makes sense to actually have it separate off in any other way. Let's pass it in.
I mean, somehow have a different set of divisions than the divisions. No,
Yeah, that's the thing I was saying. Like, it's kind of annoying because you have to match these two parameters up. There's no way of providing the wrapped value to this widget, right? Because the default is there's no like.
Make it a const at the outer level of your app. It'll have to be right.
Yeah, I don't think that there's no magical way of overriding this division value that's passed in. It just wouldn't make sense. And this is what I was saying before. It kind of makes sense to see your own custom widget at that point. But let's just go with this, right? As an example of how you might want to do this, right? And we'll go from there. So slider wrapper, right? What else do we need? Final widget child.
This child required for the painting.
Actually, do we?
Now we're gonna.
I guess we can actually have labeled slider, right? Labeled slider rather than a wrapper, right? And then just have min max. Let's say min max value on change as being parameters you want to pass across, and then you're just limiting the functionality of slider. But then if you want more parameters, you could pass them over, right? And then you guarantee that they're going to be the same value.
So probably that's a slightly better approach. Let's do that. So we'll have our unchanged. Quickly go through this. And then we had what, min max divisions, min max value, get rid of child, and then we'll just have max double value. Right, and then that way we can just put slider in here and pass over on all those values. So we've got min max. Oh yeah, and divisions. All right. So unchanged value min max divisions. All of this just moves up a level.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now we've done that, let's get rid of this tick mark shape stuff, and we're going to do something similar, but not in here, right? So let's take this away from here. And now we've got our painter. Yay. So now we're in the place we want to be. So
all this just framework to be able to get to a place where we can paint.
you say all this, I mean, when you consider like what we've actually done here in what, a few lines, most other language and frameworks would do so much more than this.
Right.
I mean, we are so spoiled as developers with Flutter. Right, where are we going? So yeah, so now what we want to do, let's take the code that we saw over here. It was render slider, wasn't it, or something in there?
I never had to deal with stuff like iOS and Android, and I'm kind of thinking that I lucked out. I immediately came along when Flutter was here, and I only had to deal with Flutter. So Flutter seems.
I can tell you the answer right now. You did luck out.
Okay. Yes. The stuff I keep seeing of just Android in general is like, well, I mean, I looked at that stuff 10 years ago, and I kind of went, boy, I'd have to invest a serious amount of time to even be sort of meaningfully competent in it. And I figured I would just ride on my laurels as a Perl guy until something else came along. And I'm glad I did that because Flutter came along.
This is interesting.
Initially Dart, of course.
So
I should mention on
padding is the track correct height.
I forgot to mention on the stream earlier that I did a talk about an hour and a half long for the Perl Advent Calendar, which is an annual event that happens in December, talking about the first 25 years of Perl and how it overlapped the second 25 years of my life and how those intertwine. So basically, it's the early days of Perl. So if any of you find that fascinating, I'll have the URL. I don't have it yet. They're sending it to me, but it'll be a YouTube video that you can go watch, kind of giving my history and Perl's history and my company Stonehenge's history, all the way back to the Rock Ages. Yeah, right, the Dark Ages. So I'll find that URL next week.
So we're gonna do a little cheat here.
Did I mention RiverPod yet today? I think I mentioned RiverPod a couple times. It's kind of a mandatory thing for me. People always asking about RiverPod. Yeah, I talked about RiverPod earlier about whether it calls Mark needs build or does it trigger dependencies.
Right. So I'm just doing a little trick here. What we're going to do is I don't want to have to pass copy of all these parameters over to the painter to then use them in the paint.
Sure.
So we pass the widget instead.
but then we still need to correctly map the should repaint based on those parameters if they've changed or not. At least the ones that would change make a change to how we visualize the output, right? So that's what this is going to be about. So we'll say that.
If there was a mention of RiverPod, yes, in fact, it was a very quick one. It was not an arm wrestling match again about whether or not RiverPod or Block is better. Nothing like that.
Right. Okay, so now we've got divisions. Padding is going to be the track height. So this is a little bit different to what you were saying before. We're going to look at the track rect in a minute. For the moment, we're going to just we're going to work out what this value is manually, and then we'll come back and I'll explain how we're going to calculate this. But let's just put a number in right now. We'll adjust the track width, which is the track width minus the padding. Let's calculate this the same way, and then I'll calculate the rectangle slightly differently in a minute.
You're duplicating some of the calculations that are normally just internal because you need to get those same numbers.
Basically, yeah. I mean, like, you can calculate yourself, but then, like, you know, at some point you're like, well, they're not going to be the same, possibly the same position, at least, right? So now we've got the tick mark offset. We don't actually care about this, right? Now we can choose to draw something ourselves, and we'll draw what we did inside our own painter previously, which was and then we can also pass in.
And what do you mean you can't use an axe instead of a hammer? I could wave an axe at a guy who's got a hammer and make him hammer something. If I was feeling threatening. Need to get the right verb form there. Yeah. That's like the classic joke of how would you use a barometer to measure the height of a building? And people come up with all sorts of crazy ways, like use the barometer as a measuring stick and mark them off all the way from the floor to the ceiling.
Right. Okay. That's good. Now we're going to flip this around to be a foreground painter so we can see it on top. There we go. Then we have our red squares exactly where the other bit should be. Look at that.
Oh, yay.
Right. I'm actually surprised that exactly on.
Cool.
So I think we locked out the.
That's shocking that you're surprised. That's so scary to me, but yes, okay.
I wasn't expecting to actually come out with the same numbers. It's actually by luck. So at the moment, the problem we've got is I'm counting the track size as just being the rectangle of the custom paint, which, strictly speaking, isn't true. The track size, I mean, I assume that's not how this works, but maybe it is. Maybe the that ends up being that exact size of the widget, but that's fine right now. It's immaterial. So let's proceed on. Okay, so where were we? So now we have this. We could draw a line off of each one. So we've got tick mark, offset, and tick mark. And then we'll do a paint for that as well. And we'll create one paint. We'll just paint with that for the moment. Well, you know what? Let's do it in green, and then we'll know, is it inactive? Is that what we set that up as?
Is it
Wow.
not? Is it being clipped? Is it being clipped?
No, it's not being clipped, but interesting enough, I'm getting some lovely errors, which I wasn't expecting.
Oh,
Null check.
okay. Oh,
Inactive track color is the wrong one. Inactive tick mark color. There we go. There are actually green lines, but they're pretty
yours.
thin. So
Oh, I
let's
see him.
adjust
I see him. I have
stroke
to get really
width,
close to my screen, but I see him. Okay, so they're here.
or bomb.
Ooh, yeah. Look at that. You got tick marks.
Yay.
You got tick marks. You got tick marks. They
Right.
go down the bottom.
And we wanted to draw some text. So we'll say text equal or label painter.
Hey,
So
how are you going to
painter.
rotate that? Are you going to rotate it so it's the words are sideways?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's what I was saying. Like maybe something special, right? Like that's not the
Yeah.
usual way of doing it.
Right.
We'll calculate a few things here, but like right now, let's just get these positions of things, and then we can then work out how we want to do the rest. Right. So label painter layout. Let's set the parameters of this text span. We're gonna, yeah, okay. All right. I'm going to cheat, but then like I'm just thinking to myself, actually, it's going to be a pain if we do that. So let me just go dig something out here. We don't need all of the text widget, but what I do want, we're going to get the default effective style, and that way we can kind of inherit stuff, and we'll pass it in. Where are we? Label style in here. In fact, we don't need to just pass it straight in. Let's go return back text style. So let's go. What else do I need? Let me go back. Where was I? Yeah. Text scaler as well. Where are we getting text scaler from? Media create text scaler off. Yeah. These are just things to render, like you don't need these to render text, right? To be clear. But if you want to like render it as the way you expect without having to pass all the size parameters and everything else all the time, then you're going to want to get the same defaults from somewhere. And that's what we're doing here. All right. So we should be able to pass in some of these in here. So we've got the text scaler and text direction is another thing that we can probably I should get text direction maybe query. Text. I remember where we inherit text direction from. Is it? Oh, it's in the default text. It's in the default text file. It is not. Huh. Text align is. Take advantage of that. Why you do this? Well, we'll just put it on the left right now, and then we can always come back. I can't remember where we get it from, but my mind has gone blank. Does it actually tell us? Probably not. Directionality.
It's there somewhere. That's what I want.
It should just guess. It shouldn't have to ask us for it.
I think there's a couple of ones that you actually need to provide because it doesn't have context to get them from, right? At this point, text painter is just the thing that does the calculation. So there's no notion of context, there's no notion of these defaults. The thing that binds these things together is the text widget, right? So if we go look at the text widget, what it's actually doing here is getting all these defaults and bring them together and then pass them over to the rendering engine to then use those to render with. And effectively, that's what it's doing here. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, so we're going to get the default text style and use that. And then the label text comes from our label builder. Build label, and that'll be the index, which I think we got those value. We also have value, but that's that, right? Okay, so this should be enough to get us where we need to go right now. There's a few other things we can get from the default text style. Max lines, overflow. We could pass over the overflow. Text height behavior, text width basis. I think these are all in there as well. Yeah, let's pass those over. If we've got them, we'll pass them over. Why not? No, that'll do. Right, let's just carry on. We're going too deep. We're going too deep. Right, so we do layout, and what we're going to get from layout is then the size, and we can use the size parameter to calculate where we want to position the text. This uses infinity as a basis of wrapping, so that it doesn't wrap. So a single line, which what we do with max lines, so we're never going to be one line. So what we actually want to do, it's kind of interesting here. What we actually want to do is do a 2-pass layout. See if I can like explain this without going too wacky. So the height of all these lines needs to be the highest text label width, so that we can fit the text on the screen. So we need to calculate the size of the text before we paint the text, and then we need to do it again to paint the text. So what we can do is we'll take this out of here. You can reuse text painters. In this case, we only need one. So we'll create one label painter, but update its text. So if we go up to the top here, we'll create one label painter. We won't bother with the text parameter. And as long as we set the text parameter before we call layout, it won't crash or won't be a problem, right? So label painter.text equals this. Okay, so now what we want to do is do the same thing here. Let's take this out here. Oops. It's out here. I'm going to pop it in a loop.
When you reuse the text painter like that, do you need to make a copy of it so you're not making changes to the original one, or does it matter? You're overriding.
No, this is we want. That's the whole point. You want it to cache all the things that it requires to do the calculations under the hood. So we want to reuse it as much as possible.
Yeah. Okay.
So
you don't want to clone it. You don't do a copy with or whatever.
No, we're just going to overwrite and then reuse and overwrite, reuse, and cache. Right. So what we want is a size largest label and what smallest label? Is that helpful? Alignment? Nah, just largest label. So the largest label is going to start off as a 0 size. And then once we get in here, we want to say if the
There's a way to get to a size and a size and get the max.
Can someone explain to me the real quick why example? Use custom paint if you want to create something like green arrows or indicate an axis instead of a widget. So we could use a widget. You're not wrong. We could use a widget. I mean, the end of the day it boils down to doing this exact same thing, right? Which is the widgets then do the canvas painting, and there's less work involved. The point here is that the tick marks are not actually widgets, right? So there's nothing like to hook off from that point. We're actually doing it based on the dimensions. Now, you can do a layout builder, and you could possibly do something else along these lines and do size boxes, and you can do it that way. It would be less optimal and a lot more code to do it with widgets at this point. I don't know. We can try. I can show you each method, and we can have a look at it. I think people are just interested in how you kind of do this kind of stuff, right? So width.
We're coming up on 3 hours though, so we don't want to go too far. Just 3 hours.
Size width is greater than largest label.
I'm not floating in an ocean. That is a lake. That is Crater Lake. That is the deepest lake in the United States at about 1,900 feet or whatever that is in your funny measurements. 1,800 to be 600 meters, roughly.
All right, so let's go work out the largest label. And then the largest label width will be the height that we want to put in here, right? So look. And then once we draw our line, we can actually offset our line to largest label width height divided by 2. Okay. We have slightly interesting. Wasn't what I was expecting, but
it's diagonal.
I kind of like it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. No, it causes more. We could do on a diagonal. Let's not do that. I don't. We have a limited amount of time here.
Yes.
So yeah, let's do this. Cool.
Yeah.
No, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I was going to offset it by the height, but actually, I think it's not going to be what we want. So it'll be slightly to the left. The labels will be slightly to the left, but I think the lines won't be, so that makes the most sense. Right. So we draw a line, and then we want to draw some text, right? So now we take our label painter again. We're going to take the same text layout that we did earlier. But this time we can now do label painter dot paint to our canvas, and then we give it the offset, right? So this offset at the moment, we'll just give it the tick mark offset. This is going to obviously be wrong right now, and we're going to look how bad this is. So look, splash. Well, not that bad, but also not that great. So we want these to go vertically. So what we need to do is do translation on our canvas. So we save our canvas state and we restore our canvas state. So this way the translation only applies to what's inside the save and restore brackets. And then we want to rotate what's on our canvas by a certain number of radians. We want a quarter turn negative. Let's import math.
How does Simon keep continuing without any break?
I've
never figured that out.
Don't know. Well, that's interesting.
Did
where'd
restore not?
Uh,
Yeah, no, that makes sense, I guess.
yeah, what's it rotating around? Maybe that's the problem. Oh yeah, yeah. What's it all doing over there?
That's me doing this. Just trying to get my bearings. Oh, because it's not right aligned. If we do it on the bottom, it needs to be right aligned. Let's just force the alignment and then.
Didn't you want to do a half turn or quarter turn to the right, or you want it to be to the left like that?
Oh, what? And have it face down instead?
I don't know. I don't know what you were trying for. I thought it was flipped around. I am.
No, hang on, mate. You get me right. It's going to rotate around. It's because the tick marker offset is being used and not offset 0. So first of all, let's do that. Right. Okay, good. Now we're talking. Now we're talking. So we want to it should be painting from the right-hand edge of our offset though, if we're right aligned. That's what's getting me right now. I'm like, it's not doing that. Is that am I just remembering wrong? I feel like maybe I'm remembering wrong. And maybe it would only care if there's multiple lines of that, right? All right, well, let's just figure it out. So that's exactly what I want. So first of all, where I want to be right now. And then the translation point, I want it to be tick mark offset dy minus label painter signs. Right. Okay, that's one. And then the tick mark offset x. Interesting.
Your X and Y is mixed up?
No.
Yeah. Oh, look, diagonal. We control the horizontal. We control the vertical. But we don't control the diagonal. That's the diagonal. What do you mean, what's Tuesday? Tuesday is like yesterday. Yesterday was an instance of Tuesday.
Okay, so now we want to have a padding parameter, right? I think let's just add that in here. And let's apply padding value. So say, when did padding come up? Oh, because I put padding as a padding got calculated, didn't it? Yeah. All right. Well, widget.padding is everything else, but never mind. So when we calculate our size, we actually want to add the label size. So let's say width. Right.
And let's set our padding through from the parent and have that set as whatever. Cool. And now we just add these to our positions. These right? No, wrong one.
Yeah, we just hit the end of the 3rd hour.
And I think we're done. Look at that. Let's take where is it? Let's take that red border away. The line. I mean, obviously we could have the line color. Let's get rid of the squares. The squares were just debugging. Oops.
Got the original ticks.
Hey, look! I think this is this is the original. Do you see the ticks are slightly off?
Oh yeah! Look at that! Look at that!
Yeah. And that's what I was expecting to happen from our calculations. So that's good. That's good, believe it or not. So it's because the track size is not the same as this, right? So really quickly, all we do is we go slider theme, track, shape, get preferred rectangle, passing in some values. It's annoying that the preferred rectangle requires the parent render box. Because we're not going to get that.
Hey, just need to add tests and documentation. You could publish this as a package. That's not happening.
Could.
It's lucky in the gist.
Right.
I don't have anything in pub, but I do have 72 gists.
This is the annoying thing. We're not going to be able to surface this without just taking this to the next level. It's some way. All right. We could force the track size. What is the default anyway? Let's just have a look at size.
So the problem is that the beginning and the ending of the track are inset from the actual outer bounds, which is the only number you can get, right?
We'll just see what. Yeah, I mean, no, it's less than that. It'd be 8. 6.
Almost. Yeah.
No, it's off the beginning. It's the offset start should be 4. Yeah, I'd say 4 by 4.
What are we building? We're building that. Whatever you're seeing on the screen, that's what we're building.
I mean,
really, it's like it's not self-explanatory. We're building that thing. It's a slider. It doesn't mean a small hamburger. I don't know if that's what they call it in the UK too, but like those sliders are little mini hamburgers.
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't know how universal that word was, or whether it made it.
I mean, I can fiddle around with these numbers and make it work as a stupid thing to do, but it's not ideal. Basically, the way to solve this next is to take what we've done in rendering and go chuck it in a render object, but we're not going to do that now. I'll post this as a kind of as an example, and then we can maybe revisit this another time. We've run out of time really this show. So I'll post this code so everyone can have a play around with it and look at it and whatever else. Oh, sorry, I just realized I'm missing. What did we add? We added these 3 parameters. Yeah, we need to add these 3 in the.
I see scalar SCALER and think it's a typo, but no, it's not that you're trying to get to SCALAR. You're trying to actually talk about scaling things.
Yeah, not Scala.
Yep. Old text scalar.
Right. Any of the parameters passed into your paint that would change the way it looks or required to repaint? Oh, they should be in the should repaint, right? So that includes all of those. Yeah, I think that about does it for now.
Roberto's happy. I think that means the customer is satisfied and will give us high remarks on our Yelp review.
Yeah. We need reviews.
Yep.
Like this video. There you go. Like this video. That's what you need to do.
And subscribe. Like this video and comment. Apparently that affects the ratings too. So like, comment, and subscribe are the new mantras for things I have to say when doing my YouTube channel. Speaking of my YouTube channel, since I'm on screen, I can promote this.
I just wanted to see what happens if we do that. There you go.
Of course, Christian comments every week. He puts all the list of the really cool stuff in there.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. Out there. Horrible colors that they are. But, I mean, what happens if we actually don't override those colors, actually? Let's have a look. What are the defaults?
Transparent. Oh, it is.
No, they're null. So and we require them down here, right? So
yeah,
let's just do this. What was the other one? Is it just that?
Oh, it only has live chat, no comment section. It's only live chat right now. I think you can comment later.
Yeah, you can comment after the stream finishes.
Yeah.
Did that work? Oh no, I've got to turn these off. There you go. That's kind of cool. I wonder if it's because of our track height actually itself. I don't know.
Division 5, Division 4.
All right. Well, look, I'm not going to put around with this, right? So I'm going to take this. I'm going to post this.
Ship it. Ship it.
Ship it.
Ship it. Ship it so I can get out here and get lunch.
Yeah. Indeed.
Or take a nap. One of the two. I try to forget which one I could do. Whether I'm more tired or more hungry. I'm not sure which yet.
I'm
probably going to commit to going forward for the day and go to bed early tonight.
Labeled slider. Sure.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Labeled slider. Let's post this. Humpday Q&A on the 18th December. Merry Christmas to everyone.
Happy Festivus coming up Monday.
Happy Hanukkah.
like whenever it was, or is it coming up still? I don't know.
Don't ask me. Just
Only my calendar tells me that, and I never know.
you know, we have a day called Pancake Day here, where everyone makes pancakes.
I don't think we do that.
It's Shrove
We
Tuesday.
don't have a Boxing Day either. That's a UK thing.
Yeah,
Um,
you miss out on all the good stuff.
I know. Well, we got other days. We got
Right.
President's Day. You probably don't have one of those.
Yeah, no, we don't have one of those.
You have a King's Day? You must have a King's Day, right?
No, we have the Queen's birthday when the Queen was out, so we guess it'd be the King's birthday now.
Yeah.
Wasn't actually the day actually changes each year because it's not like that's. I think it's not on the exact day.
So celebrated nearby or whatever.
Celebrate nearby.
Make a 3-day weekend out of it somehow.
Basically, yeah.
Like that. Cool. Ready.
So the link is posted in the chat for anyone that wants the gist link. You can go get the code. And we'll be here same time next week. And well, no, we won't be. Sorry, not next week. Next week is Christmas Day.
Christmas. No, we're not doing a show Christmas Day.
So we're not doing Christmas Day show. However, we will be back on possibly on the 1st of January. Depends on how.
You won't see me on the 1st of January.
We may pick another day. If we do, what you need to do is follow the Flutter community on Twitter or on Blue Sky or on Mastodon. And subscribe. Yeah, in fact, subscribe, and you'll get notified when we schedule the next one. It may be over the holiday break sometime. We'll need to figure it out between all the various people.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a lovely day, or afternoon, or evening, and night, and whatever. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Bye.
Great. Bye.